Chapter 2477. Night Sorrow had obtained several divine-level elixir recipes from the Jubal Pavilion. They were all of the Feather God level. It was not difficult for him to refine elixirs of this level. In less than a month, he had refined all the elixirs and obtained 6 types of extremely high-grade Feather God level elixirs. Everything was easier than he had imagined. Night Sorrow knew that this was due to the increase in his divine soul power. With the support of his powerful divine soul power, it was much easier for him to refine elixirs, forge weapons, and set up formations. After that, Night Sorrow used the materials he had obtained from the Endless Bone region to set up a divine-level defensive formation for his newly purchased residence. Cultivators at the Feather God realm couldn't break through this defensive formation. Even an exalted god would have to go through a lot of trouble to break it, and Yi Shan would be alerted. However, if he entered Jinyuan Divine Lord's residence, he might not be able to sense him. After completing all this, Night Sorrow distributed the resources he had obtained from the Endless Bone region to Jingyun, Zhu Yunxia, Holai, and Gongchen. Now that he was short on time, he did not refine any divine weapons or defensive treasures for them. In the following months, Night Sorrow entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to absorb divine crystals. As a result, his cultivation increased rapidly. He was not far from becoming a mid-level feather god. While waiting for Styx's notice, Night Sorrow would take his friends and wives to drink tea and relax. When he had nothing to do, he would also guide his clansmen in their cultivation. Jingyun, Zhu Yunxia, and Holai were all old people in the god realm. They had no problem guiding others in their cultivation. Xianjizi, who had received Jing Yun's guidance, suddenly had an epiphany. He should be able to break through from a mid-level feather god to a high-level high god soon. Neopatian did not have any talent in cultivation. Night Sorrow sent him to the Jubal Pavilion to learn management experience. Yuan Xianro, who had been cultivating in the Clear Sky Pagoda, was also released to cultivate with Night Moon's clansmen. At the same time, Gongchen, who had something to do, left alone. A few days after he left, Night Moon's dynasty produced 2 feather gods in one day. They were Night Sorrow's wife, Datura, and his son, Yilingxi. Yi Xiaolua's accident was a huge blow to his mother, Datura. She cultivated crazily and finally achieved something. After that day, Night Sorrow brought Datura to see his son, Datura. Then he brought Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo back to the Yi family's new mansion and held a celebratory banquet for Datura and Yilingxi. Jingyun, Zhu Yunxia, Holai, Xianjizi, Neopatian, and the others were very envious of the happy family. Now, they were basically all alone. However, the people of the Night Moon dynasty were good at socializing, and they quickly integrated into the big family without any barriers. Everything was developing in a good way. However, when the agreed time came, Mingi sent someone to inform Night Sorrow that there were some accidents in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave residence, and they had to delay their entry to 2 years later. Night Sorrow was a little surprised when he heard this news, but he didn't ask much. He felt that since he had time, he might as well go to Langqi Mountain and check on Mo Youqian's family situation. Anyway, it was just to check on the news. It wouldn't take long for him to find out the results and go to the Endless Bone region to tell him about the situation. On this day, Night Sorrow told his family and friends that he was going to go to Langqi Mountain alone. However, Jingyun immediately stood up and said, "I want to go to Langqi Mountain too." "Jingyun, what's wrong? You don't look right." Night Sorrow immediately asked when he saw that Jingyun didn't look too good. "Some of the enemies who destroyed my family came from Langqi Mountain. I want to check on their strength. If they aren't strong, I'll take revenge for my family. If they are much stronger than me, I'll go to my sect to improve my cultivation." Jing Yun's face was filled with killing intent caused by hatred. Her family wasn't weak and even had a senior ancestor who was at the Divine Emperor level. However, it was suddenly destroyed and only she and Jing Hong escaped the disaster. The people who destroyed her family didn't belong to just one family. One of them was the Shangguan family of Langqi Mountain. Now, Jingyun wanted to check on the Shangguan family's current strength before making her next plan. No wonder your expression changed when you heard about Langqi Mountain in the sky reaching pagoda that day. Since that's the case, let's go together. If there's a chance, I'll help you take revenge. Knight Sorrow nodded and said goodbye to Sikong Chuyu and his other wives before leaving the mansion with Jing Yun. Following behind Knight Sorrow and looking at his back, Jing Yun's expression was a little complicated. Some of the experiences in the Endless Bone region made her have some feelings for Knight Sorrow. However, after coming to Hai Bay City, she met Knight Sorrow's wives and got along very well with them. Therefore, she silently suppressed all the feelings related to romance. Her personality was as gentle as water, and she didn't like to rob others of their happiness. There's a town ahead. Let's go down and inquire about it. The distance of 1,000,000 miles was nothing for Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun. 2 days later, they flew to the foot of Lang Chi Mountain. Seeing a medium-sized town 1,000 miles away, Knight Sorrow said something to Jing Yun and flew down. At this time, Jing Yun's expression was a little complicated. She responded softly and followed him into the town. This town was not large and its area was less than 1% of Hai Bay City. However, it was very lively and there were many Divine Realm practitioners. Yi Shang brought Jing Yun to the largest restaurant and ordered some dishes and wine at a table near the window on the second floor. After all the dishes were served, he rewarded the waiter with a divine crystal and said, "Brother, I want to ask you something. Is it convenient for you?" Of course. Of course it's convenient. Sir, please go ahead. The waiter took the divine crystal and immediately nodded his head like a chick eating rice. To him, divine crystals were good things that could only be found by chance. Moreover, there were no other guests on the second floor at this time, so he was naturally willing to say a few more words. Have you heard of the Mo family? They once had an invincible divine lord in their family. They shouldn't be unknown. It had been a long time since Mo Yuqian attacked the Dark Region. Knight Sorrow wasn't sure what the Mo family was like now, so he asked vaguely. The Mo family? An invincible divine lord? There doesn't seem to be such a family in Lang Chi Mountain. Even if there was, it should have declined. The waiter lowered his head and thought for a while before shaking his head and replying. Then he added, there are a total of 3 large families in Lang Chi Mountain that have divine lords. The Shengguan family, the Murong family, and the Ling family. Brothers Mo family seems to have declined. That was true. After several reincarnations, anything could happen. It seems that it's not easy to find out about the Mo family. Hearing the waiter's words, Knight Sorrow felt a little sad for Mo Yuqian. If Mo Yuqian hadn't gone to the Dark Region back then, with his invincible divine lord strength, he would probably have become a divine king. Chapter 2478. Shengguan clan, Murong clan, and Ling clan? Do these clans all have monarchs? Jing Yun, who had been silent all this while, immediately asked after hearing the servant's words. She originally thought that since Hai Bay City had declined, Langchi Mountain, which was attached to it, might have declined as well. She didn't expect that there would be 3 big clans with monarchs here. And one of them was the Shengguan clan, which had a grudge against her. This made her angry. The Shengguan clan was tyrannical, which meant that it wouldn't be easy for her to take revenge. Reporting to the esteemed guest, the 3 big clans do have monarchs. This is something that everyone in Langchi Mountain knows. And it seems that the 3 big clans have more than one monarchs. I heard that recently, an invincible feather god appeared in the Shengguan clan. He successfully defeated the master ranked 97th on the feather god list and entered the feather god list, the servant said with a trace of reverence. The Shengguan clan, Murong clan, and Ling clan were undoubtedly the 3 giants in Langchi Mountain. Even when discussing, most people would use a respectful tone, afraid that they would accidentally offend the 3 big clans and end up being exterminated. A feather god ranked in the top 100 of the feather god list. This is interesting. What's the name of the invincible feather god of the Shengguan clan? Among the feather gods or even high gods that they met in Hai Bay City, none of them were talented. Hearing that there was an invincible feather god in the Shengguan clan, Knight Sorrow asked with interest. His name is Shengguan Hai. I heard that he can defeat high gods. It's said that he will return to Langchi Mountain soon. You're just a servant. How dare you talk about young Master Hai of the Shangguan clan? While the servant was talking, a reprimand suddenly came from the stairs. Then 2 men and 2 women walked up the stairs. Hearing the reprimand, the servant was so scared that his face changed. He hurriedly ran over and bowed to apologize. Master Lei, I just admire young Master Hai's deeds, so I helped to spread the news. I didn't offend you verbally. Please forgive this lowly one, Your Excellency. The leading male cultivator was called Shangguan Lei. He was an upper-level feather god and a disciple of the collateral branch of the Shangguan clan. He was a famous playboy in the town. He was very arrogant and would kill people if he was unhappy. The manservant obviously knew Shangguan Lei. After bowing and apologizing, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Shangguan Lei. Damn it! My family's young Master Hai ascended to the feather god list and received a reward from the divine king Wu Exe. Who in the entire divine realm doesn't know of this? Is there a need for an errand boy like you to do publicity? Shangguan Lei raised his foot and stomped on the manservant's head. Shangguan Lei was an upper-level feather god. The manservant's talent for cultivation was very low. He was far from the divine realm. When Shangguan Lei stepped on his head, the manservant immediately cried out in pain. The voice sounded like it was in extreme pain, and it was different from a human's voice. This made Shangguan Lei and the other 3 burst into laughter. Brother Lei, don't trample this servant to death. I want to enjoy some fresh blood. One of the red-robed female cultivators licked her lips. She was from the Fox clan and had the habit of drinking fresh blood. Spare people when possible. You've gone too far. If these people were allowed to continue, the manservant would definitely be tortured to death. Knight Sorrow directly reached out and grabbed him to his side. For you, how dare you meddle in the business of the Shangguan clan? Shangguan Lei's horse-like face was instantly attracted by Jing Yun's appearance when he saw Yi Shang and Jing Yun. With a wretched look, he said, "This beauty, are you married? If not, why don't you marry me and be my concubine? If there is a marriage, I, Shangguan Lei, can help you beat the other party to death. The Shangguan clan is the top clan in Langqi Mountain. If you marry into our clan, you will be taken care of. Think about it carefully." Knight Sorrow's cultivation seemed to be at the lower level of feather god. Shangguan Lei, who didn't see through Jing Yun, thought that she might have practiced a cultivation technique to conceal her cultivation. Her strength should be about the same as Knight Sorrow's, so he dared to flirt with her. "You're courting death." Jing Yun, who had heard that they were from the Shangguan clan, had long wanted to attack them. When she heard Shangguan Lei's words, she immediately became furious and slapped them. Now, she had the strength of an invincible deity and could even challenge some weaker divine emperors. She slapped the 4 of them to death in anger. However, there was no sound on the 2nd floor. Seeing that Jing Yun had slapped the 4 people into ashes and even shattered their divine souls, the manservant was so scared that he couldn't even speak. Knight Sorrow took out an elixir and threw it to the manservant, asking him to take it to heal his injuries. Then he said, "Don't be afraid. Continue to tell me what you know." Knight Sorrow was a little surprised that Jing Yun suddenly attacked so heavily. However, he knew that it was related to the family feud, so he didn't say anything. Jing Yun's entire family had been slaughtered by the Shangguan clan and other clans. Now, she killed some of the scum of the Shangguan clan, which could be regarded as revenge. "Yes, Your Excellency. I will tell you everything I know." The manservant, who had survived, knelt down to Jing Yun and began to talk about the specific situation of Langqi Mountain. Now, there was a main city in Langqi Mountain called the ancient city of Langqi. It was located at the peak of Langqi Mountain and the 3 big clans ruled the city. In addition, there were 4 acropolises located in the north, south, east, and west of Langqi Mountain. The names of these 4 acropolises were very simple. They were called East City, West City, South City, and North City. They were all attached to the ancient city of Langqi. However, they had developed until now and both the scale and the strength of the cultivators had surpassed Hai Bei City. Originally, Langqi Mountain was only an attached area of Hai Bei City. Now, even the acropolises of the ancient city of Langqi have surpassed Hai Bei City. What's going on? After the manservant finished speaking, Jing Yun immediately frowned and muttered. She had spent countless years in the endless bone realm. After returning, she found that the surrounding environment had changed greatly. The original center of the city, Hai Bei City, had declined, while the other areas had developed. Are you two cultivators from Hai Bei City? Hearing Jing Yun's words, the manservant's face immediately changed. We are from Hai Bei City. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost when you heard this name? Seeing the manservant's reaction, Knight Sorrow reprimanded him angrily. My lord, everyone in Langqi Mountain knows that as long as a talented cultivator in Hai Bei City approaches the High God realm, they will be captured by the big clans and imprisoned. Given how powerful this lady was, could it be that she had managed to escape after being imprisoned? If that's the case, you'd better escape quickly. Otherwise, in a while, there will definitely be experts from the big clans chasing after you. The manservant said with a nervous expression. He knew the strength of Shangguan Lei and the others. They were all at the High God realm, but Jing Yun was able to slap the four of them into ashes. Her strength should be at least at the High God realm. There's such a thing? That means that if the cultivators of Hai Bei City are talented and chosen and taken away, not only will they not have the chance to become stronger, but they will also be completely imprisoned? No wonder Hai Bei City has become weaker and weaker. Chapter 2479. At this moment, Knight Sorrow recalled that among the 5 high gods of Hai Bei City, the city lord was called Shangguan Yun, the Umbra Hall master was called Ling Xiaoye, and the Wuji Pavilion master was called Murong Yuan. Now, it seemed that the 3 of them were most likely sent to Hai Bei City by the major clans. Their goal was naturally to control Hai Bei City and capture and imprison any talented cultivators they found. Even the servants in the restaurants of Langqi Mountain knew that the cultivators of Hai Bei City were being targeted, but almost no one in Hai Bei City knew about it. There was definitely someone deliberately controlling it. How much hatred and resentment do these clans have with Hai Bei City that they would do such an inhumane thing? Do you know the reason behind it? Mo Yuqian, Divine Lord Jin Yuan, and Ao Fong, the 3 invincible Divine Lords, had sacrificed themselves to protect Hai Bei City, but now it was being targeted like this. This made Knight Sorrow very unhappy, so he stared at the servant and asked, I heard that it seems to be related to Wu Xian, the Divine King, but I haven't heard the details. The servant nodded and explained. He had been serving tea in the restaurant for 100,000 years, so he naturally heard a lot of things, but he wasn't sure if it was true or false. If this is really because of Wu Xian, then he's really a good-for-nothing. Knight Sorrow couldn't help but curse. Back then, Mo Yuqian, Ao Fong, and Divine Lord Jinyuan had brought the most important resources of Hai Bei City to battle. In the end, most of these opportunities were obtained by Wu Xian, who had almost used up the resources of a city before he became the Divine King. If he was really targeting Hai Bei City, then he was simply worse than a beast. Sir, you can't insult the Divine King. A big shot like the Divine King has a lot of luck. If you offend him, the consequences will be unimaginable. Even if you insult him behind his back, it's still very dangerous. The servant had heard a lot of things over the years, so he immediately advised Knight Sorrow. If Wu Xian is really that kind of villain, then I don't mind personally taking away his luck in the future. Thinking about the various things that happened in Hai Bei City, Knight Sorrow felt that what the servant said was very likely right. If the decline of Hai Bei City is really related to Wu Xian, then he's really too much. If this is true, what should we do? Jing Yun's heart was also very uneasy. Let's go to the citadel of Langqi City in a while and ask about the Mo clan. Then, we'll check if this matter is true. If it's true, we'll think of a way to rescue the imprisoned cultivators. Hai Bei City, which was reclaimed with the lives of our predecessors, is not a place for sluts to trample on as they wish. Knight Sorrow drank a mouthful of wine. Originally, he came to investigate the matter of the Mo family, but unexpectedly, he learned such a shocking truth. How could he remain calm? All right, that's the only way. Let's go to the 4 great citadels first. If we can't find anything, we'll go straight to the peak of Langqi Mountain. Jing Yun's face was also filled with anger. At this moment, Knight Sorrow waved his hand and erased the servant's memory. Then, together with Jing Yun, they immediately left the town and flew towards the west side of the city. The west side of the city was built halfway up Langqi Mountain. A large part of it was suspended in the air. Many of the buildings were floating in the clouds, somewhat similar to the city in the sky. After arriving at the west side of the city, Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun, who had changed their appearance and aura, did not go to the restaurant to inquire about information. Instead, they walked into a shop called Dark Tower and prepared to spend divine crystals to buy information. Although this Dark Tower was not in Langqi City, it was near Langqi Mountain and had the most up-to-date information. Two lords, welcome. As soon as Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun walked into Dark Tower, a white-bearded old man who looked like a shopkeeper immediately stood up and greeted them with a smile. I heard that as long as you pay enough divine crystals, you can buy any information here? After being greeted by the shopkeeper, Knight Sorrow sat on an armchair and took a sip of the tea served by the waiter. Not to the extent of having any information. After all, the realm of the gods is too big. Many super experts have gone there and can't be investigated. However, the information about the Wu Xen divine realm is not far from the truth. The old man stroked his beard and said confidently, "Since you are so confident, could it be that you are from the three big families?" The old man was very confident. Knight Sorrow asked a probing question. If the other party was from the three big families, then his question might cause a big disturbance. Haha, Dark Tower has nothing to do with the three big families. The old man shook his head and said, "Customer, you have asked 2 questions. Continue to ask questions. I will charge according to the difficulty of the questions. In that case, I will start to ask questions." Knight Sorrow originally thought that Dark Tower would take him and Jing Yun to a secret room to make the deal. He did not expect the other party to be so direct. He thought for a while and asked, "Is the Mo family, which had an invincible divine emperor, still in existence?" "I can answer this question, but I will charge you 30,000 divine crystals." The old man smiled and asked, "Do you choose to pay 30,000 divine crystals for information? Here are 30,000 divine crystals. Take them." Knight Sorrow did not hesitate. He took out 30,000 divine crystals from his spatial device and handed it to the old man. "If I am not wrong, the invincible divine emperor you are talking about is the golden body divine emperor, Mo Yuqian, right?" the old man asked. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow immediately felt that he had asked the right person. He nodded and said, "That's him. How is his family now?" "They exist in name only. All the talented cultivators have been suppressed. What a pity." The old man sighed and told him about the current situation of the Mo family. The current Mo family was not completely destroyed, but there were less than 100 people left in the whole family. They lived in seclusion in the depths of Langqi Mountain. As long as a talented cultivator appeared in the family, he would immediately be taken away by the three big families and suppressed. Now, there were not even many divine realm cultivators in the family. Damn it. 3 big families, you are too much. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow took a sip of tea and calmed down. He continued to ask, the cultivators of Hai Bei City were suppressed by the 3 big families. Is this related to the Wuxin Divine King? Hearing Knight Sorrow's question, the old man was stunned for a moment and then said, this matter involves the Divine King. It will cost you 300,000 divine crystals. 300,000 divine crystals? I don't have enough. Can I pay with divine weapons or elixirs? Knight Sorrow had basically used up all his divine crystals. He had less than 300,000 left. Just as the old man was about to answer, Jing Yun took out a spatial device and handed it to the old man. Here are 300,000 divine crystals. Tell me the whole story. Okay. As long as there are divine crystals, everything is negotiable. The old man chuckled and said, the suppression of Hai Bei City was caused by the Wuxin Divine King. When the Wuxin Divine King grew up, he received favors from several invincible divine lords in Hai Bei City, but he did not complete the task they asked him to do. After becoming the Divine King, he deduced that he would suffer a calamity because of Hai Bei City. Therefore, he has been suppressing Hai Bei City for a long time. The three big families of Langqi Mountain are all his trusted aides. He knew this matter like the back of his hand. So that's the case. Then do you know where the suppressed cultivators of Hai Bei City are being held? Night Sorrow continued to ask. After confirming the truth of the matter, he was ready to think of a way to rescue some of the cultivators of Hai Bei City. They are all being held in the dungeon of Langqi Ancient City under the personal watch of a divine lord. With the strength of the two of you, it's basically impossible to rescue them. The old man obviously saw through Night Sorrow's thoughts. He suddenly lowered his voice and said, "But if you join an organization, there is a chance to rescue the cultivators of Hai Bei City." What organization? Chapter 2480. Why don't the two of you follow me inside for a chat? Night Sorrow and Jing Yun were clearly interested in this topic. The old man stood up and gestured for them to follow him. He hadn't even stood up when they were talking about the Divine King. Now that he was inviting them inside, it was clear that things weren't as simple as they seemed. "All right, please lead the way." The old man appeared to be in the Divine Feather realm, but Night Sorrow could see that he was only a lesser high god. Although he wasn't weak, he wasn't much of a threat to him and Jing Yun. The Dark Tower's defensive formation wasn't very advanced either. It could only isolate them from detection. Overall, it wasn't much of a threat. Night Sorrow glanced at Jing Yun, then followed the old man into the underground chamber. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Zhuang He of the Dark Alliance. I'm a lesser high god and one of the 10 great elders of the Dark Alliance." The old man's aura expanded as soon as they entered the secret chamber. He unleashed the aura of a lesser high god. The aura was isolated by the chamber and didn't leak out. "I'm sorry to embarrass myself." Zhuang He retracted his aura after showing off his strength. He knew that Jing Yun was stronger than him. According to the Dark Alliance's information, Night Sorrow wouldn't be too far off. "Elder Zhuang He, you want me to join the Dark Alliance? Tell me what kind of organization the Dark Alliance is." Night Sorrow looked around to make sure there was no ambush. He asked calmly. Jing Yun stood behind him. She was wary of the old man, but she didn't leak any of her divine origin energy. To put it bluntly, the Dark Alliance is an alliance to stop Wuxin from harming the geniuses of Hai Bei City. Since its establishment, it has secretly protected more than 100 geniuses in Hai Bei City. Even the weakest of these geniuses are half-step high gods. More than 30 of them have become high gods. At this point, Zhuang He revealed a trace of a smile and said, "Actually, Yishang, you are also a target that my Dark Alliance has set their eyes on and is prepared to protect. You've been keeping a low profile in Hai Bei City, so Wuxin hasn't noticed you yet. Once they do, they'll capture and imprison you." "Me? How did you notice me?" Night Sorrow felt that he had kept a low profile, but he didn't expect to be noticed. Speaking of which, our Dark Alliance's businesses are spread all over Hai Bei City and Langqi Mountain. The Drunken Immortal restaurant where you met Feng Xiao Yun last time is one of our properties. The manager, Wei Yan, is my disciple. Zhuang He chuckled as he explained, "I didn't expect that you would come knocking on my door right after I noticed you. That's why I'm telling you about the Heartless Divine King. That's information you can't buy with divine crystals. I want to know why you are protecting the genius cultivators of Hai Bei City, and what is your motive for forming the Dark Alliance?" Night Sorrow looked at Zhuang He. After all, nothing happened without a reason. If the motive was unclear, then there was definitely a problem. "We protect the geniuses of Hai Bei City for 2 reasons. First, we want to fight against the Heartless Divine King one day. Second, we want to accumulate talents so that we can protect Hai Bei City in the future. When danger comes, Hai Bei City won't have no one to rely on. Our alliance master, Ao Qingyun, is the son of the old city lord, Ao Feng. He doesn't want to see Hai Bei City, which his father used his life to protect, be occupied by dark creatures one day." Zhuang He explained, and then said angrily, "Now that the Dark Murlocs are acting strangely, and there's also a problem with the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, the soul-devouring beast will break through the suppression barrier at any time and return to Hai Bei City. At that time, the Heartless Divine King's people will definitely not take action. We will have to fight to the death to protect Hai Bei City." But if you fight to the death, even if you can protect High Bay City, you will be exposed to the heartless. Night Sorrow asked, but his heart was affected by the matter of the genuine Divine Lord's cave. Hearing Zhuang He's words, he understood that Mingyi had already caused an uproar in the city, and the Dark Alliance had already found out the truth. Even if we die in battle, the people of the Dark Alliance will not watch as High Bay City falls. Zhuang He explained. It turned out that most of the elders of the Dark Alliance were Ao Feng's descendants or his former subordinates. They had deep feelings for High Bay City. I admire your determination. Night Sorrow praised sincerely, then said, but the genuine Divine Lord's cave is very important to me. Can we talk about the situation there first? Of course. Zhuang He looked at Night Sorrow, then at Jing Yun. Jing Yun clearly had the strength of a high god, but she stood beside Night Sorrow without saying anything, as if he was the leader. Zhuang He couldn't figure out the relationship between the two. Seeing that Jing Yun didn't say much, he continued to talk to Night Sorrow. Now, the entire Langqi Mountain knows about the genuine Divine Lord's cave. That Mingyi couldn't withstand the pressure and revealed the location of the cave. Now, 3 peerless feather gods have entered the cave to search for opportunities. Zhuang He sighed, alas. It's a pity that we only have 1 peerless feather god in the Dark Alliance, and he's only ranked 100th on the feather god list. He's no match for the other 3 peerless feather gods. Even if he goes in, he'll be courting death. There's such a thing. How strong are the other 3 peerless feather gods? Hearing this, Night Sorrow couldn't sit still anymore. It turned out that Mingyi wasn't delaying the trip to the genuine Divine Lord's cave. He was kicked out. Saying that there was a delay of 2 years was just an excuse. The peerless feather gods of Wuxin's faction had already entered, but he was still waiting here like an idiot. He had made an agreement with Long Tianqing to find the letter left behind by the genuine Divine Lord. Now that there was an accident, how could Night Sorrow, who was anxious to save his family, not be anxious? Those 3 peerless feather gods are the strongest of the feather god realm in the Wuxin divine realm. They have the strength to kill high gods, but no one knows their true strength. They're ranked 47th, 76th, and 97th on the feather god list. Zhuang He knew that Night Sorrow was the virtuous feather god. He was very confident in Night Sorrow's character, so he didn't hold anything back. The other party was frank and open. He didn't hide anything when he talked about it. This left a good impression on Night Sorrow. He felt that even if he didn't join the Dark Alliance, he could still work with this organization and help each other. So he said, why don't I work with the Dark Alliance's peerless feather gods and enter the genuine Divine Lord's cave together? With me there, they won't succeed so easily. Night Sorrow was very confident in his own strength. The top 100 feather gods of the divine realm were all true geniuses. He hadn't encountered such true geniuses since coming to the divine realm, but he wasn't afraid at all. Work together? That's fine. Zhuang He heard what Night Sorrow meant. He wouldn't immediately join the Dark Alliance, but would form an alliance with them. Knowing that Night Sorrow had the strength to fight high gods, Zhuang He thought that with him joining, there might be a chance to turn things around. After all, the genuine Divine Lord's most important inheritance was a cultivation technique that could strengthen the soul. This was something that could only be found by chance in the divine realm. Chapter 2481. Since the other party agreed to cooperate, Night Sorrow quickly asked, the invincible feather god ranked 97th is called Shangguanhai. I heard about that. What are the other 2 called? What are their characteristics? Hearing Night Sorrow's question, Zhuang He organized his words and explained, the one ranked 76th is called Lung Ningxin. She's a human female cultivator and is good at ice attacks and defense. The one ranked 47th is called Ji Hao. I don't know what his true form is, but he's definitely not a human cultivator. His body is very strong and he's good at close combat. The strongest one is good at refining his body. I don't know if it's related to Wuxin. Hearing this, Night Sorrow continued, there's no time to lose. Hurry up and contact your people. We'll enter Genuine Divine Lord's cave together. To be honest, I was asked to look for Genuine Divine Lord's letter. If I can find it, I'll owe the Dark Alliance a favor and I'll definitely repay it in the future. I hope this is the beginning of our fighting side by side. This is our first cooperation. Other than the letter, you and the Dark Pavilion will split the rest equally. How about that? Night Sorrow's body was as strong as a dragon. He didn't deliberately hide it and gave Zhuang He some confidence. Seeing that Night Sorrow's body was as strong as a supreme god, Zhuang He politely proposed the distribution method. Hearing this, Night Sorrow understood that the Dark Pavilion would definitely send a lot of people this time. He said casually, "I'm determined to get Xinyuan Divine Lord's letter. As for the rest, the Dark Pavilion can do as you see fit." "Okay, then it's decided." Zhuang He nodded with satisfaction. He left the voice transmission stone and called a servant to take Night Sorrow and Jing Yun to another courtyard to rest. He then went to contact the Dark Alliance. They were ready to set off immediately and go straight to Xinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Xinyuan Divine Lord's cave had been open for decades, but those who entered were all inferior feather gods. This time, 3 invincible feather gods entered. This way, the opportunity might be lost. Zhuang He was very anxious. After the servant arranged a courtyard for Night Sorrow and Jing Yun, he ordered someone to bring food and wine. Sitting at the table, Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun and said with a smile, "You're much stronger than me, but you've been so quiet that I feel embarrassed." "Hee, it's nothing. I'm not a talkative person." Jing Yun smiled and raised her wine cup. "Let's have a drink. Take it as me supporting you on your journey. I hope you can find God Xinyuan's letter and bring it back to save your family." Now that Jing Yun was alone, she envied Night Sorrow for being able to fight for his family. "All right, I'll count on your auspicious words then." Night Sorrow picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Then he asked, "I don't know how many years I will stay in Xinyuan's Immortal's Cave. Are you going to stay in Haibei City or go out to find your master?" The Shangguan clan was very powerful and they had more than one Sir God. Night Sorrow knew that with Jing Yun's current strength, it would be very difficult for her to take revenge. "I feel that after you leave, your family will immediately become too weak to withstand a gust of wind. So while you're away, I'll stay in Haibei City and protect your family." Jing Yun said with a smile, and then drank the wine in the cup. "How can I accept that? It will delay your time of revenge." Hearing Jing Yun's words, Night Sorrow felt a surge of warmth in his heart, but he hurriedly refused. As for his family, he actually had plans to hide them all in the Endless Bone Realm. After all, it was safe there for now. "It's okay. At most, you can help me take revenge after you come out," Jing Yun said softly. Then she asked, "It's settled then. All right, how long have you been stuck at the lower high god level? I see that you're very strong in other aspects, but your cultivation is pitifully weak. It's a little unbalanced." "It's a little unbalanced, but there's nothing I can do for now. Just absorbing divine crystals is too slow. It's not enough to support me until I reach the middle feather god level." His cultivation, the strength of his body, the strength of his soul, and the strength of his power of merit were indeed very unbalanced when compared to Yi Qin. But this was related to the characteristics of the Endless Bone Realm. There was nothing he could do. "You're about to face the super powerhouses of the feather god level. They might be even more difficult to deal with than ordinary high gods," Jing Yun said as she looked at Night Sorrow. Then she took out an item from her spatial artifact and handed it to Night Sorrow. "This is the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. It's thousands of times more effective than divine crystals. Enter the accelerated space and see if it can help you reach the middle feather god level." Jing Yun knew that Night Sorrow's power of virtue could stimulate his cultivation. He could cultivate from the lower feather god level to the middle feather god level without encountering any bottlenecks. All he had to do was absorb all the energy. "No, this is too valuable. I can't accept it." Night Sorrow knew that the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid that Jing Yun gave him was a rare treasure in the god realm. Its value could not be measured in divine crystals. Even if he was the kind of person who didn't care about trifles, he couldn't take advantage of her again and again. As if she had expected Night Sorrow to react this way, Jing Yun smiled sadly. "I don't have a single family member now. I only have a few friends. Among them, only your cultivation can make use of the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. If you don't want it, it has no value." The truth was just as Jing Yun said. The 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid was a rare treasure to Night Sorrow, but to an invincible high god like her, it was of little use. Alright, in that case, I'll accept it. But I won't accept it for nothing. I'll definitely repay this favor. Speaking of her family, Jing Yun's eyes reddened. Night Sorrow didn't continue to refuse. Night Sorrow was about to accept it when Jing Yun smiled and said, "Then I'll wait for your favor." In truth, she didn't take this matter to heart. There's no time to lose. I'll enter the spatial artifact to cultivate. If Zhuang He comes back, tell him to wait for me for a few days. I'm not far from the intermediate feather god realm. I should be able to break through soon. Night Sorrow said to Jing Yun, then walked into a guest room in the courtyard. He entered the accelerated space and used the Immortal Divine Arts Feather God chapter to absorb the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. Time passed quickly. After cultivating in the Clear Sky Pagoda for 50 years, Night Sorrow's cultivation had successfully advanced to the intermediate Feather God realm. His strength had also increased. Now, he only lacked a few God-tier combat techniques. Absolute techniques were things that could only be found by chance. Night Sorrow felt that the most important thing at present was to enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave and immediately leave the Clear Sky Pagoda after breaking through to the intermediate Feather God realm. He had spent 50 years in the Clear Sky Pagoda, but only half a year had passed in the God realm. It wasn't too long. At this time, Jing Yun, who was worried about the safety of Night Sorrow's family, had already left. Zhuang He led 11 Feather God realm cultivators and stood guard in the courtyard. Intermediate Feather God? It's actually an intermediate Feather God. We waited for half a year just to wait for an intermediate Feather God? Elder, aren't you making fun of us? Chapter 2482. Night Sorrow had just become a mid-level Feather God. He couldn't hide his aura and was easily seen through. At first, Yun Tianyi thought that Night Sorrow, who had been chosen by Zhuang He and claimed to be on par with him, would definitely be a half-step high god. Now that he saw that Yi Futian was only a mid-level Feather God, he was furious. Tianyi, don't be rude. Night Sorrow is on par with you. Zhuang He had a good temper. Yun Tianyi's aura was strong and his tone was a little harsh, but he still tried to persuade him with a smile. Others couldn't sense Night Sorrow's strength, but he knew. At the same time, he also believed that the Dark Alliance's information couldn't be wrong. Elder, if I remember correctly, the experts on the Feather God list are all half-step high gods, right? Yun Tianyi shouted angrily, but he clearly just became a mid-level Feather God. How can someone like him be on par with me? If he's on par with me, why isn't his name on the Feather God list? When he heard Night Sorrow's name, all the names on the Feather God list flashed through Yun Tianyi's mind. He became even angrier when he realized that he wasn't on the list. He thought that the Elder was trying to harm him. He sent a piece of trash who wasn't on the Feather God list and claimed that he was an expert. If he entered the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave with such a person and encountered the 3 invincible Feather Gods, he would definitely die. After being questioned by Yun Tianyi repeatedly in front of Night Sorrow, Zhuang He's temper was very good, but his tone became serious. The measure of a cultivator's strength is combat power, not the Feather God list. Don't take it to heart. Although he's a mid-level Feather God, he has the strength to defeat a high god. A mid-level Feather God can defeat a high god? Ha! Do you even believe yourself when you say something like being an elder? You found this thing and tricked me into entering the cave. Aren't you trying to harm me? After glancing at Night Sorrow at the beginning, Yun Tianyi's gaze was fixed on Zhuang He. He didn't care about Night Sorrow or the other Feather Gods at all. Since you don't believe me, let's fight. Night Sorrow had cultivated for many years and had the power of merit in his body. He disdained such a fierce battle. However, he knew that if he did not prove himself, Yun Tianyi would continue to cause trouble. Therefore he spoke up. In fact, he did not need anyone's help at all. He just wanted to find out the entrance to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave from them. There was no need for a battle. If you can take one of my palms and not die, I will allow you to travel with us. Yun Tianyi, who didn't even place Night Sorrow in his eyes, congealed his god elemental energy and sent a palm strike towards Night Sorrow ferociously. This palm was sparkling with the might of a high god. It wasn't something an ordinary feather god could withstand. Nonsense. Seeing Yun Tianyi make a move, Zhuang He immediately became furious. He waved his palm to stop him. He knew that Night Sorrow definitely had the strength to back it up. This was the information he had obtained from the Dark Alliance and his judgment. It couldn't be wrong. However, he was afraid that Yun Tianyi would anger him and affect the overall situation. After all, with Yun Tianyi's strength, if he led a team into the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave alone, he would undoubtedly be courting death. At this moment, Night Sorrow grabbed Yun Tianyi with his left hand and grabbed Zhuang He with his right hand. He easily neutralized their movements. Night Sorrow, who did all this, didn't even use his god elemental energy. How is this possible? Yun Tianyi was instantly stunned by Night Sorrow's calmness. He opened his mouth but didn't say a word. He had used all his strength in the palm strike just now. It was already equivalent to a high god's palm strike. He just didn't use his secret technique. He didn't expect that a mid-level feather god would be able to neutralize it so easily. This was a huge blow to him. Nothing is impossible. In the path of cultivation, there is no strongest, only stronger. I see that you've obviously become complacent with your achievements today. This is not conducive to continuing to become stronger. If it weren't for Elder Zhuang He, I wouldn't have said this to you. Yun Tianyi was a genius saved by the Dark Alliance. He was likely to fight for High Bay City in the future, so Night Sorrow didn't argue with him. He continued, "If there's nothing else, let's go. It's my fault for delaying you for half a year. After entering the Divine Lord's cave, I will do my best to take care of you." Why can't a mid-level feather god on the feather god list defeat me? At this moment, Yun Tianyi was still thinking with a bitter face. He felt that this was unbelievable. "Tianyi, don't worry about it anymore. It's time to move." Zhuang He comforted him. Then he led Night Sorrow, Yun Tianyi, and the other 12 feather god cultivators out of the Dark Tower's tunnel. After leaving the city, they went straight to the Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave. The Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave was located in a secret fissure a few million miles east of High Bay City. Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi led 10 half-step high god cultivators and walked in the fissure for half a month before they found the entrance to the cave. There are 4 half-step high gods near the cave. They are hiding in the stone walls. Don't give them a chance to use the voice transmission stone. That will alert them. When they were still 10,000 miles away from the cave, Night Sorrow used his divine sense to probe the cave and found the 4 half-step high gods hiding in the stone walls. They were definitely the sentries of the forces inside. He pointed out the location to Yun Tianyi and the others and took the lead to sneak in. "Should we go too?" The half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance didn't have as strong divine sense as Night Sorrow. They didn't detect the enemy and looked at Yun Tianyi in confusion. "If we are discovered by the sentries, the people inside will be prepared. This is going to be troublesome. Let's trust him this time." Yun Tianyi was an arrogant and unruly person, but after being defeated by Yishang, he had already put away his arrogance. However, he still felt somewhat displeased and jealous in his heart. It was just that he didn't show it right now. Later, they cooperated with Night Sorrow and found 4 sentries in a row. After eliminating the sentries, they trusted Night Sorrow more. "Let's go in. For safety reasons, I will go first. You guys follow behind." The entrance to the cave was located by the Dark Alliance. Night Sorrow was very confident in his strength. He said and walked in front. He wanted to protect the members of the Dark Alliance. "Keep pretending. I think you want to go in front and take the lead in getting the resources." Yun Tianyi saw Night Sorrow's reaction and thought to himself. He had always been the leader of the feather gods of the Dark Alliance. No matter what mission was completed, he was the one in command. Now that he saw Night Sorrow overshadowing his brilliance, Yun Tianyi's mood gradually became complicated. Someone has indeed been here and set up a formation. After entering the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, Night Sorrow found that the place he had just entered was a long and narrow circular passage. It looked like a cave. On the ground inside, There were several hidden formations that almost didn't have any fluctuations. He quickly reminded them. What greeted them was the soul-devouring evil wind that was stronger than the one in the endless bone realm. You guys wait for me here. I will go and break the formation. Bracing himself against the familiar soul-devouring evil wind, Night Sorrow took a step forward and walked into the passage. This is the soul-devouring evil wind. Come back quickly and wait for the wind to stop before going in. Yun Tianyi, who was standing at the entrance, saw Night Sorrow walk in and immediately reminded him as if he was an idiot. It's okay. The soul-devouring evil wind can't do anything to me. Night Sorrow turned around and waved his hand, indicating that he was fine. The soul-devouring evil wind could not do anything to his body's strength. These formations are not simple. It seems that we really need to be careful. Night Sorrow began to break the formation while enduring the soul-devouring evil wind. As soon as he started, he realized that the formation on the ground was not simple. It was obviously not something that an ordinary feather god could break. There was no doubt that there were not only 3 invincible feather gods in the other party's lineup, but also experts in formations. It was possible that one of the 3 invincible feather gods was very skilled in formations. Chapter 2483. Isn't it simple? I think you're the one who's deliberately mystifying things. Those who came in are all feather gods. How powerful can their formations be? Yun Tianyi mocked as he watched Night Sorrow break the formation in the soul-devouring evil wind. He was ranked in the top 100 of the feather god list and was known as the invincible feather god. He regarded himself as a high god. Although 3 feather gods ranked higher than him had come in this time, he felt that even if they were stronger than him, their formations would not be much of a threat to him. In fact, it was not that Night Sorrow liked to steal the limelight, but that the various formations set up by the other party were indeed not simple. They were mysterious and targeted. The first array he set up was a very powerful invisible killing array. If Night Sorrow had not discovered this killing formation, most of the half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance would have been killed or injured if they had rushed in recklessly. If you think I'm deliberately mystifying things, you can come over and try. Yun Tianyi was not weak, but he obviously did not understand formations. Otherwise, he would have seen some clues. Night Sorrow, who was breaking the formation, observed the formation patterns but could not find the core of the killing formation. He wanted to break the formation but did not know where to start. He was annoyed by Night Sorrow's interference, so he casually replied. Unexpectedly, upon hearing those words, Yun Tianyi really condensed his divine essence to protect himself and rushed over. He could not see the range of the formation at all. He rushed directly into the killing formation's range. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, tens of thousands of sword rays burst out from the killing formation and shot toward Yun Tianyi. The individual attack power of these sword rays was almost equivalent to the sword chi of an ordinary upper-level feather god. It was not much of a threat to an invincible feather god like Yun Tianyi. That's all. Look at you making a fuss. Yun Tianyi immediately mocked when he realized that these sword rays could not break through his protective chi of righteousness. However, Yun Tianyi soon realized that something was amiss. This array was actually using the terrain to strengthen the soul-devouring evil wind. Under the attacks of the strengthened soul-devouring evil wind and the tens of thousands of sword rays, his protective chi was rapidly being depleted. This feeling was like boiling a frog in warm water. At first, there was no feeling, but as time passed, the pressure became more and more terrifying. Gradually, Yun Tianyi's face became serious. The high gods of the Dark Alliance who were watching from afar shouted anxiously. The 2 formation masters among them, Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue, formed their protective auras and rushed out. Yun Tianyi was an important figure in the Dark League. Although they were struggling in the soul-devouring evil wind, they gritted their teeth and moved to the front of the formation to help break it. However, their horizons were not as broad as Night Sorrow's. Otherwise, they would have discovered the formation a long time ago. Therefore, their efforts were futile. On top of that, the soul-devouring evil wind had reduced him to a sorry state. Not only had his stellar energy been shattered, even his defensive robe had been torn apart. Why did you come down here? Go back. Seeing Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue rushing down to help, Yun Tianyi, who had taken out his long sword to block the wind, immediately scolded them angrily. His attitude was not good, but it was clear that he cared about them. All right, we'll go back now. Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue knew that something was wrong and immediately rushed toward the entrance. However, the soul-devouring evil wind here was very strange. It was easy to enter, but difficult to return. Before they could even take a few steps, Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue were blown to pieces. They could not even stand properly and could only crawl on the ground. Bastards! Everyone, come and help. Do you want to see Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue die in the wind? Yun Tianyi, who was fighting against the killing sword, shouted anxiously when he saw that Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue were about to die in the soul-devouring evil wind. Hearing this, the other half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance immediately formed their protective chi and prepared to rush in. At this moment, they were fully aware of how terrifying the soul-devouring evil wind in the cave abode was. If not for Night Sorrow's warning, they would have rushed in mindlessly and the consequences would have been unimaginable. It seems that the members of the Dark Alliance get along well. In order to save their companions, the members of the Dark Alliance were not afraid of death. Seeing this, Yishan couldn't help but sigh in admiration. To be able to see the whole picture with a single glance, this proved that the Dark Alliance was humane. It must be because of Ao Fang's son, Ao Qingyun's good leadership. I know you're anxious, but it's useless to go in together. Let's wait at the entrance. I'll save them. Seeing that Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue were in a sorry state, Night Sorrow naturally would not sit by and do nothing. He shouted at the entrance and formed his power of merit to protect them and send them back to the entrance. This is such a powerful power of merit. This was the first time Night Sorrow had used his power of merit in front of these people. When the members of the Dark Alliance saw that Night Sorrow's power of merit could easily block the soul-devouring evil wind, they could not help but praise him. Thank you, Night Sorrow. Zhou Tongxue's face was pale as he returned to the entrance and immediately thanked Yi Shiwen. Thank you, Brother Yi. I didn't expect you to be the feather god of merit on top of being strong. You're much stronger than us. There's a spot on the feather god list for you. Lin Mo, who was also in a sorry state, thanked Yi Shiwen sincerely. If not for Night Sorrow, they might have died in the soul-devouring evil wind. The soul-devouring evil wind was different from the information they had received. It was clearly stronger. Thank you, Brother Yi. Thank you, Brother Yi, for saving us. Seeing that Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue were saved, the others also cupped their fists in gratitude. Then Zhou Tongxue, who still had lingering fear, begged Night Sorrow. Tianyi is the most talented among us. Senior Brother Yi, please save him. Don't worry, we came together. I naturally won't leave him to die. Saving him is more important, so I won't be polite with you. After replying, Night Sorrow immediately turned around and prepared to break the formation to save Yun Tianyi. With his magnanimity, he naturally wouldn't leave him to die. I didn't expect you to be the feather god of merit, and you're quite righteous. I Yun Tianyi owe you a favor. Yun Tianyi was a little jealous that Night Sorrow was stronger than him, but he was very grateful that Night Sorrow had saved Lin Mo and Zhou Tongxue. Whether I owe you a favor or not, that's easy. The problem now is how to save you. I can't find the eye of this formation at all. The formation in front of him had some tricks. After Yun Tianyi activated it, he still couldn't find the eye of the formation. Moreover, it had nothing to do with his attributes. Night Sorrow, who had been pondering for a long time but still couldn't find a way to break the formation, was certain that he couldn't break it outside. Therefore, he condensed his power of merit and charged into the formation. What are you doing? We only have 2 invincible feather gods on this trip. If both of them die in the formation, what will happen to the rest? Seeing Night Sorrow enter the formation, Yun Tianyi immediately shouted angrily. The others also felt their hearts clench. Chapter 2484. I can't break the array from the outside, so I have to come in. If this continues, your divine essence energy will be exhausted sooner or later. If we don't break the array, we won't be able to get through. The opportunity will definitely fall into the hands of others. Night Sorrow's goal was to obtain Divine Lord Jinyuan's letter. He wanted to break the array as soon as possible more than anyone else. This wasn't just to save Yun Tianyi. After explaining, Night Sorrow condensed some power of merit to protect Yun Tianyi and share some of her pressure. As for himself, he was searching for the eye of the formation and other clues in the killing formation that was thousands of miles wide. With the blue phoenix armor protecting him, Night Sorrow didn't need to expend any effort to resist the soul-devouring evil wind and sword radiance. He could enter the killing array as if there was no one there. This shocked Yun Tianyi and the members of the Dark Alliance. At this moment, everyone, including Yun Tianyi, realized how big the gap was between them and Night Sorrow. This array has some tricks. It's not easy to break. The person who set up the array is very skilled. Inside the killing array, Night Sorrow didn't panic at all. It was just that the array was too difficult to break. He couldn't find a way to break it. This was because Night Sorrow had too few divine-level array diagrams. He had only seriously studied one and didn't have enough experience in array formations. Moreover, the person who set up the array was very skilled in array formations. If that's the case, I'll break the array with brute force. Unable to find a loophole, Night Sorrow decided to use the least technical and most domineering method to break the array. He would break it with brute force. Currently, the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear was a high god-level forbidden artifact. The Heavenly Samsara Halberd was only a feather god-level forbidden artifact. The Soul-Splitting Evil Vanquishing Spear was a monarch god-level artifact. Its grade was too high and difficult to control. Therefore, he kept it in his spatial artifact and didn't consider using it. After making his choice, Night Sorrow took the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear from his back and directly attacked the array's boundary. Under his attack, the killing array was obviously shaken. This seems to be effective. Seeing Night Sorrow's performance, Yun Tianyi was instantly energized. She immediately used a secret technique to increase her strength. She used the sword in her hand to perform an ultimate technique. The dazzling sword light immediately bombarded the barrier of the killing array. Boom! Night Sorrow had only used a normal attack, but Yun Tianyi had directly used his ultimate technique. He had achieved a greater effect and had shaken the boundary of the killing array even more clearly. Sure enough, it's effective. Breaking the formation is right in front of us. Yun Tianyi's aura became even stronger as she continuously displayed 3 types of sword techniques. Each move was more ruthless than the last, continuously shaking the barrier of the killing formation. Under his powerful attacks, cracks quickly appeared on the barrier. Night Sorrow then coordinated with his Inferno Demon Subduing Spear and continued to attack. It didn't take long for the barrier to break. Phew! I'm finally out. After escaping from the killing formation, Yun Tianyi felt the joy of surviving a calamity. She realized that she had indeed been too rash this time. He looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Thank you for your help this time. I will consider your opinion as we move forward." "It doesn't matter." Hearing this, Night Sorrow asked, "How much of your strength did you use just now?" "Of course it was 100%. If I didn't use my full strength, how could we have broken the formation so quickly? However, I still have a few trump cards that I haven't used yet," Yun Tianyi replied without hesitation. He had indeed used his full strength to eliminate some of his trump cards. With your strength, it's very likely that they have already sensed it. When Night Sorrow had attacked just now, he hadn't used his full strength at all because he knew that breaking the formation could be sensed by the people who had set it up. Unexpectedly, Yun Tianyi had used his full strength even though he hadn't used his full strength. It was too late for him to warn her. If we were to snatch resources together, we would have met sooner or later. It's not a big deal if they sensed our strength. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yun Tianyi immediately understood that he might have been exposed. However, since it was too late to regret, he didn't care anymore. They might be able to guess your identity. After all, the 100 people on the God of Feathers list are all out in the open. However, I didn't use my full strength just now, so they shouldn't be on guard against me. This is where our advantage lies. Night Sorrow explained, then continued, now that we know how terrifying the soul-devouring evil wind and the various formations are, I'm afraid we'll have to change our strategy. Let's go back to the entrance and discuss it. The soul-devouring evil wind was much stronger than expected. Many of the Dark Alliance's high gods couldn't handle it. This was a big problem. Night Sorrow couldn't use his power of virtue to protect them forever. This matter had to be resolved immediately. That's true. I'll try to use a spatial artifact to store everyone inside. Yun Tianyi knew that Night Sorrow's words made sense. The cave was too dangerous. If they entered without enough strength, the chances of dying were too high. What's going on? Why can't we store them? Yun Tianyi returned to the entrance and tried to store a half-step high god in his spatial artifact. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do it. The others tried as well, but found that spatial artifacts couldn't be used in the cave at all. They couldn't store or take people out. We can't even take them out. It seems that even if we store them inside, they won't be able to leave the cave. Yun Tianyi, who discovered this, made a prompt decision. Everyone, as you can see, the cave is too dangerous. Night Sorrow may be strong, but he can't take care of everyone all the time. What I mean is that you all go back the way you came and I'll go in with him. It seems that's the only way now. I didn't expect the cave to become so scary. This wasn't what the elders told us. Lin Mo, who had been hoping to find an opportunity in the cave, sighed immediately. Among these people, he was second only to Yun Tianyi. If even he couldn't survive the soul-devouring evil wind, there was no need to mention the others. Let's not waste time. Let's not waste any more time. Let Brother Yi and Tian Yi go in deeper. Let's go back the way we came. Zhou Zhangxue, who still had lingering fears, suggested. At this moment, seeing that the crowd was reluctant to leave, Yi Shang comforted them. Everyone, don't worry. Aside from the letters that I was entrusted with, there are no other letters. I didn't ask for anything from the letter, and I'll share it with everyone. Thank you, Brother Yi. Lin Mo cupped his fists gratefully at Night Sorrow. He knew that Night Sorrow was the feather god of merit and would do what he said. Then he led the Dark Alliance's half-step high gods out of the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave. There's only the two of us left. You're an expert on the feather god list, but the opponent is even stronger. We can't be careless. From now on, you have to follow me and don't be rash. Spatial artifacts can't be used here. If treasures appear, the competition will be very cruel. You have to be mentally prepared. After the others left, Night Sorrow looked at Yun Tianyi and instructed. He had been through countless battles. Yun Tianyi was relatively impulsive, so he had to explain things in advance. Okay, I'll listen to all your orders in the cave. Yun Tianyi, who had been very jealous of Night Sorrow, gradually began to admire him. He felt that not only was Night Sorrow's strength so outstanding that he couldn't see through him, but Night Sorrow was also much better than him in terms of character. The killing array I set up has been broken. There are two people who broke it. One of them is average, but the other is probably Yun Tianyi, who is ranked 100 on the Feather God list. Chapter 2485. The light on the white-haired young man's body was black, which completely blocked the soul-eating evil wind. They were already 100,000 miles into the cave, and the soul-eating evil wind was stronger than the one at the entrance, which meant that he was very powerful. Hi, Yun Tianyi, who is ranked 100? I know he's nothing to be afraid of. Even I, Shangguan Hai, can easily kill him, let alone you, who is ranked 50 on the Feather God list. He can stay on the Feather God list because he hasn't been challenged. Shangguan Hai, who was wearing a navy blue robe, immediately sneered when he heard Yun Tianyi's name. Oh, is it possible that he's hiding his strength like Ningxin and I? The white-haired young man Ji Hao looked at Shangguan Hai and then at Leng Ningxin, who was dressed in black. He was ranked 47th on the Feather God list, while Leng Ningxin was ranked 76th. Both of them were hiding their strength. No, definitely not. We are from the same sect, so I know he's not a shrewd person. Shangguan Hai explained casually. He and Yun Tianyi were from the same sect, But he didn't know that Yun Tianyi was from Haibei City. Otherwise, there would have been a fight between them. Langqi Mountain's hostility toward Haibei City wasn't that simple. That's for the best. We don't have to worry about others taking advantage of us. Ji Hao, who was ranked 47th on the Feather God list, looked into the distance and sighed. This immortal Jinyuan's cave is really hard to break through. We're already 100,000 miles in, but there are no opportunities and dangers everywhere. None of the arrays left by the immortal Jinyuan were simple. If it weren't for Ji Hao's high attainment in arrays, they wouldn't have been able to reach where they were now. Even though they were strong, they still lost a layer of skin after walking for 100,000 miles. The immortal Jinyuan's method of strengthening the divine soul must be in the cave. We haven't gone deep enough. As soon as Leng Ningxin spoke, the surroundings were instantly frozen. Her ice body was very strong. Yes, it must be so. But you'd better not talk. It's too cold. Shangguan Hai, who had just killed a puppet whose strength was close to that of a great god, said with a smile. The Divine Lord Jinyuan's soul-strengthening technique was something that not even the heartless Divine King had obtained back then. It was definitely still in the cave abode. That's for the best. Let's go deeper. Among the three of them, Ji Hao's strength and attainments in formations were the strongest, so he led the team in front. While the three of them were moving forward, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi continuously attacked and broke all the arrays set up by Ji Hao. Finally, they walked out of the circular corridor at the entrance. The two of them walked out of the circular corridor and immediately walked into a hall that was paved with stones. In the middle of the hall, there was a pile of huge broken stone pillars. Under the soul-devouring evil wind, these stone pillars were constantly blown to the ground and rolled away. All sorts of skeleton puppets spawned around the stone pillars. These skeleton puppets were very similar to the skeletons in the Endless Bone realm, but they were not quite the same. First of all, they were much more powerful. Most of them were at the lower or upper celestial realm. Second of all, they did not have much evil aura. They should have been artificially created, not bred evil creatures. What should we do next? Should we go around these skeletons or kill them directly? The square hall was very spacious. It was tens of thousands of miles long and wide. Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi looked quite small in comparison. If they went around the edge of the hall, they might not be attacked by the skeletons. That was why Yun Tianyi asked this question. At this time, Night Sorrow said, "We entered the cave abode to try our luck, not to barge in blindly. Let's explore this place first. Although this hall is clear at a glance and the arrays set up have been broken, there are still some skeletons and stone pillars." That makes sense. Then let's study these skeletons and stone pillars carefully. Yun Tianyi nodded. She picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at a lower or upper celestial realm skeleton puppet, luring it to the edge of the hall. There were almost 100 lower or upper celestial realm skeletons near the stone pillars. Although Yun Tianyi was confident, she did not dare to charge directly. There are divine crystals in these skeletons that provide energy. They are of a very high grade and can be used for cultivation. After killing the skeletons, Yun Tianyi took out the divine crystals in the skull of the skeletons and said, "This divine crystal is indeed good. It can be used to power upper celestial realm skeleton puppets. But I don't think the cave abode of the Jinyuan Divine Lord is that simple. He is a genius who is proficient in alchemy, crafting, and array Dao. Every area he designed might have a special meaning." At this point, Night Sorrow seemed to have an epiphany and said, "Yun Tianyi, let's go back. But let's start from the beginning." Yun Tianyi was an invincible upper celestial, so she was naturally not a simpleton. She immediately understood what Night Sorrow meant and returned to the circular corridor with him to look for opportunities. After the two broke the array, they did not stop in this area and walked into the hall. After returning, they began to use their soul power to carefully search every gravel in the circular corridor. There seems to be life energy in this gravel. It might be a small world. After patiently searching for half a month in the circular corridor, Yun Tianyi suddenly shouted. He found a very special gravel. There is indeed life energy. Let's go in and take a look. Follow me. After discovering something, Night Sorrow immediately shrank his body and wanted to enter the gravel. But as soon as his body touched the gravel, he activated the array patterns on the gravel and was immediately sent flying by the light from the array patterns. It seems that if we want to enter this small world, we have to break the array outside. These array patterns are obviously more mysterious than the ones we broke just now. They might be the work of the genuine Divine Lord. After discovering the situation, Night Sorrow began to study it with interest. Study it carefully. I don't understand these things at all. Yun Tianyi, who knew nothing about arrays, could only stare helplessly and could not help at all. These array patterns don't seem to be used to break them. They are used to learn. You should try to learn them too. Night Sorrow studied for 3 consecutive months and did not break the array on the gravel. But he made a surprising discovery. It turned out that the array patterns on the gravel did not need to be broken at all. He only needed to learn them to control the array on the gravel. Yi Shang's divine soul was extremely powerful. It was unknown how many times stronger than Yun Tianyi's. He only used a little more than a month to learn the array patterns, while Yun Tianyi used more than 2 years. I finally learned it. This thing is too complicated. My soul power is almost exhausted. After trying his best to learn the array patterns, Yun Tianyi rubbed his head and said, in the past, he was only interested in cultivation and improving his strength. He did not learn alchemy, refining weapons, or arrays. He felt that it was a waste of energy. Now, learning this array pattern was very laborious. Since you have learned it, let's control the array and enter the gravel together. Night Sorrow, who had been waiting for Yun Tianyi for many days, said and then controlled the array to enter the gravel. Yun Tianyi followed closely behind and entered the small world in the gravel. After entering the small world, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Chapter 2486. In front of them was a sea of soul-devouring beasts. The strongest soul-devouring beast king was a half-step divine lord. The other billions of soul-devouring beasts were basically at the Feather God realm and High God realm. They were densely packed as far as the eye could see. The evil dark aura almost broke through the sky. The difference in numbers between the two sides was too great. Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi were a little shocked. This was something they never expected. How is this an opportunity? This is clearly the soul-devouring beast's lair. We are too smart for our own good. Facing the ferocious soul-devouring beast army in front of them, Yun Tianyi was quite frightened. She already had thoughts of retreating and looking for the small world's exit. But after looking around, she did not find anything. Clearly, this place could only be entered but not exited. Don't panic. Let's observe first. Yun Tianyi was clearly a little impatient. Night Sorrow, who was carefully observing the soul-devouring beasts, reminded him. The soul-devouring beast army was indeed terrifying. The dark aura was shocking, but there were no divine lords among them. He was only wary but not very afraid. Still not panicking? I've read about soul-devouring beasts in the classics. They can devour the souls of cultivators. If you are devoured by them, your physical body will become a shell without intelligence. Yun Tianyi, who was still looking for the exit, was extremely flustered. She did not have the demeanor of an invincible feather god expert. 2 human cultivators. Where is Zhenyuan? Get him to come out and fight with me. At this moment, the half-step divine lord soul-devouring beast king suddenly spoke. Its voice was very cold, giving people an extremely evil feeling. After the soul-devouring beast king spoke, all the soul-devouring beasts turned their attention to Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi. Being stared at like this, Yun Tianyi's hair stood on end. Even Night Sorrow felt very uncomfortable. There were simply too many soul-devouring beasts. The feeling they gave people was that kind of cold, evil feeling. They had not attacked yet, but it made the 2 of them very uncomfortable. It was as if their divine souls were being pulled. I'm asking you, where is Divine Lord Zhenyun? Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi did not answer. The soul-devouring beast king immediately flew into a rage and shouted again. What should we do now? I can't beat him, and I have nowhere to run. Yun Tianyi felt that her soul was about to explode after being interrogated by the soul-devouring Beast King. She shook her head and said, "This soul-devouring Beast King only had the strength of a half-step Divine Lord, yet it shamelessly boasted that it wanted to challenge an invincible Divine Lord. This was clearly a bit strange. But facing it, Yun Tianyi felt like her head was about to explode. Since there's no chance to escape, let's fight. Don't stray too far from me, and don't use the power of your spirit." Night Sorrow ignored the soul-devouring Beast King's shouts and used his divine soul power to probe the soul-devouring beast army. When he discovered that any soul energy that approached the soul-devouring beasts would be devoured, he reminded Yun Tianyi and took the lead to charge towards the soul-devouring beasts. Night Sorrow did not find any exits after using his divine soul power to probe the surroundings. Under such circumstances, they could only choose to fight. He guessed that these soul-devouring beasts might have been sealed by Divine Lord Jinyun back then, and were accidentally discovered by the two of them. "There are so many soul-devouring beasts, we can't win at all. Aren't we courting death if we charge in like this?" Seeing Night Sorrow charge into the soul-devouring beast army, Yun Tianyi, who immediately followed, broke down a little. Both sides were outnumbered. He felt that charging into the soul-devouring beast army was an act of suicide. The path of cultivation can't be smooth sailing. It's normal to encounter enemies that can't be defeated. Now that there's no way out, it's over for us to fight. Follow me and attack the soul-devouring beast king with all your might. When approaching the soul-devouring beast army, Night Sorrow suddenly used the power of merit, causing the golden dragon of merit to coil around his body. The power of merit coiled around his body, and the corrosive dark aura was immediately dispersed. Some of the divine feather realm soul-devouring beasts sensed the aura of the power of merit and immediately dodged in fear. The high god realm soul-devouring beasts' movements were also slightly affected. Only the half-step divine lord soul-devouring beast king was not affected by the power of merit at all. It took the initiative to attack the two of them. Its attacks targeted the soul directly, and the blue phoenix armor could only offset a portion of it. Just in time. As long as I control you, the other soul-devouring beasts are nothing to be afraid of. Facing the soul-devouring beast's soul attack, Night Sorrow tried his best to resist while dispersing a portion of the power of merit. He used his left hand to absorb the dark aura emitted by the soul-devouring beast army. He had done something like absorbing the dark aura in the endless bone region before. Trying it again was a walk in the park. All he needed was time. Enough ants could kill an elephant. There were too many soul-devouring beasts. No matter what, it was impossible to kill all of them. Night Sorrow prepared to absorb enough dark aura before using soul control on the soul-devouring beast king. As long as he enslaved it, the threat of the other soul-devouring beasts would naturally be resolved. "Yun Tianyi, cooperate with me to attack it. I need to injure it." After blocking the soul-devouring beast king's soul attack, Night Sorrow took out the fiery demon-subduing spear from his back and activated the essence smoke and stars dominating body. He suddenly used the fiery demon-subduing spear on the soul-devouring beast king. The area covered by this move was quite large. It immediately covered thousands of soul-devouring beasts. It delayed the soul-devouring beast army's reinforcements to the soul-devouring beast king. "Alright, I will seize the opportunity." Phaseless sword formation. Seeing that Night Sorrow attacked without hesitation, Yun Tianyi, who was originally afraid of battle, immediately used his long sword to perform his ultimate technique. His long sword directly turned into a sword formation that descended from the sky and trapped the soul-devouring beast king inside. The sword formation was formless and formless, but the sword chi shot out in all directions. Its attack power was close to that of an intermediate high god. Dark creatures like the soul-devouring beast could devour the souls of cultivators to strengthen their own souls. Hence, their souls were relatively strong. However, their weakness was that their bodies were relatively weak. After being continuously attacked by the sharp sword chi, several wounds that emitted dark aura appeared on the soul-devouring beast king's body. It was in so much pain that it screamed. However, it immediately became completely enraged and spat out a mouthful of dark aura at Yuntiani. Oh no, dodge quickly. The soul-devouring Beast King's attack was very corrosive and could corrode the soul. Night Sorrow more or less knew about this technique. However, when he opened his mouth, Yuntiani could no longer dodge. Power of merit purification. Seeing that Yuntiani's body was enveloped by the dark aura, Night Sorrow immediately used the power of merit to help him dispel it. At the same time, his left hand frantically absorbed the dark aura. The speed of absorption was thousands of times faster than before. I'm actually fine? All the dark aura was absorbed by Night Sorrow. Yuntiani, who originally thought that he was going to die, was a little surprised. At this moment, he saw that Night Sorrow's body was enveloped by the dark aura. He immediately shouted, "What are you doing?" Chapter 2487. Don't worry, I'm fine. This is my method. With the power of virtue protecting his body, it was not too easy to absorb the darkness aura. Night Sorrow simply put away the power of virtue. The current him already looked like he was completely shrouded by the darkness aura, as if he had transformed into a humanoid soul-devouring beast. It was no wonder that Yuntiani was worried. After replying to Yuntiani, Night Sorrow began to prepare his next attack. If the soul-devouring Beast King was not injured, he would definitely be asking for trouble by using soul control. And in the Divine Lord Jinyuan's abode, he could not use spatial artifacts. He could not take out the Divine Soul Recovery Pill to recover his body. Therefore, the 7-star rampage could not be used at will. Hence, the attack power against a half-step Divine Lord was a little weaker. Looking at it now, I can only use this move. Thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow simply steeled his heart and fused the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear into the Heavenly Samsara Halberd. After the two fused, the newly formed Heavenly Samsara Halberd was still mainly reincarnation attribute. However, the spear body became emerald green and covered in blazing flames. Try my Samsara Strike. After fusing the new Heavenly Samsara Halberd, Night Sorrow casually waved and fired an attack at the half-step Divine Lord Realm Soul-Devouring Beast King. This spear contained a very powerful reincarnation attribute. It instantly dropped the Soul-Devouring Beast King's strength to High God level. Yuntiani, use your strongest move to attack it. Now is a good opportunity. Night Sorrow, who succeeded in one attack, expended quite a lot of energy. He needed a certain amount of time to recover his divine essence energy. He could only let Yuntiani attack the soul-devouring Beast King. Alright, I'll try my best. Hearing this, Yuntiani did not hesitate at all and unleashed her trump card Mystic Art. She burned her bloodline power, raising her cultivation several times, and once again displayed the phaseless sword formation. Yuntiani's phaseless sword formation locked onto the soul-devouring Beast King once more and shot out sword energy continuously. The soul-devouring Beast King's aura immediately weakened greatly. No. Protect me. The soul-devouring Beast King's aura had clearly weakened. Night Sorrow realized that his chance had come. He shouted at Yuntiani and used his dark aura to control the soul-devouring Beast King's soul. Originally, the soul-devouring Beast King's divine soul was very powerful, and Night Sorrow was far from being its match. However, it had been reduced by a level by the power of reincarnation, and it needed to control its divine soul to resist Yuntiani's non-phase sword array. In this period of time, their strength was already infinitely close. Night Sorrow, who had experience in soul control several times, once again used the power of merit against the soul-devouring Beast King. This was done to defend against the other soul-devouring beasts and also to disturb the soul-devouring Beast King. No matter what kind of dark creature it was, they would all be wary of the power of merit. This was an unchanging truth. Are you using darkness control on a creature of darkness? Yuntiani, who had ignited his bloodline to increase his strength, was a little weak. However, after confirming that Night Sorrow was using soul control, he immediately understood what to do. He swore to guard Night Sorrow with his life, not allowing any soul-devouring beasts to approach. Yuntiani needed to continuously ignite his bloodline power to do this, which consumed a lot of energy. But if he did not persevere, Night Sorrow would be disturbed by the soul-devouring beast and would definitely fail at the last step. Then both of them would die. This soul-devouring beast's divine soul power doesn't seem to be as powerful as I imagined. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who was locked in a stalemate with the soul-devouring Beast King's soul, discovered that the soul-devouring Beast King's soul seemed to be incomplete. This discovery was of great help to him. In the stalemate, Night Sorrow mocked, "You're not complete. If I'm not wrong, you've already been beaten into several parts." Doing this was naturally to disturb the soul-devouring Beast King's mind. Now that the two souls were entangled together, a single thought would be sensed by the other party. "Human, your tricks won't be able to disturb this king. This king will successfully control you." Since ancient times, soul-devouring beasts had always controlled cultivators. This was the first time the soul-devouring Beast King encountered a situation where its mind was controlled by a human cultivator. Naturally, it would not give up so easily. However, Night Sorrow's guess was not wrong. Its soul had indeed been scattered. Right now, only a small part was left, which was why it had the strength of a half-step Divine Lord. Just now, you said that you wanted to challenge Divine Lord Jinyuan. It seems like you should have been an invincible Divine Lord at your peak. However, you were already defeated by Divine Lord Jinyuan and split into your current state. Recalling the soul-devouring Beast King's words when it first came out, Night Sorrow quickly made his own judgment. "Nonsense, you're talking nonsense." The moment Night Sorrow said that, the soul-devouring Beast King immediately recalled how it was beaten up by Divine Lord Jinyuan. Its soul began to tremble violently and its body swayed non-stop. "Order the other soul-devouring beasts to stop." Taking advantage of the soul-devouring Beast King's soul fluctuation, Night Sorrow completely controlled it and issued an order. "Warriors of the soul-devouring Beast Clan, listen to this king's order and stop attacking." The soul-devouring Beast King, who was controlled by Night Sorrow, immediately issued an order obediently. Under its order, all the soul-devouring beasts stopped attacking. "Yuntiani, how are you?" After controlling the soul-devouring Beast King, Night Sorrow immediately recovered. However, he saw that Yuntiani's aura was extremely weak. Night Sorrow, who helped Yuntiani up, used the power of merit to disperse the dark aura around him. "I'm exhausted. I need to leave the cave and take some elixirs to consume." Yuntiani had a special elixir on her, but she could not take it out now. "Alright, hold on a little longer. I'll think of a way." After speaking to Yuntiani, Night Sorrow ordered the soul-devouring Beast King, "Let all the soul-devouring beasts kill each other." Just now, he read some of the soul-devouring Beast King's soul and knew that its soul was indeed shattered by the Divine Lord Jinyuan and split into several parts. It was the true king of the soul-devouring beast clan. The other soul-devouring beasts would obey any order it gave. Yes. The soul-devouring Beast King, who was controlled by Night Sorrow, immediately obeyed the order. Under its order, tens of thousands of soul-devouring beasts began to kill each other crazily. Their numbers also rapidly decreased. "It's still too slow. You go and fight too." "No, you make them stop." In the soul-devouring Beast King's memory, there was no exit to this small world. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted the soul-devouring Beast King to order all the soul-devouring beasts to self-destruct, suddenly thought of a way to get out. He took Yuntiani and hid at the edge of the small world. Then, he let the soul-devouring Beast King order the other soul-devouring beasts to gather at the other edge of the small world and self-destruct together. Bang! 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 With so many soul-devouring beasts gathered at one point, the power of their self-destruction could be imagined. The originally stable small world suddenly had a hole blown open. You can also take care of it yourself. Self-destruct. Originally, there were hundreds of millions of soul-devouring beasts, but now there was only one soul-devouring Beast King left. Night Sorrow hesitated for a moment, gave up the idea of controlling it, and let it self-destruct. With a loud bang, the soul-devouring Beast King also exploded into nothingness. At the same time, a tall shadow appeared in front of Night Sorrow and Yuntiani. Divine Lord Jinyuan? Chapter 2488. I'm just a phantom image left behind by the Divine Lord in this world. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's shout, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image immediately sighed. I actually saw the legendary Divine Lord Jinyuan? Yun Tianyi, who was originally in a bad state, immediately had a clear look in his eyes. Although it was just a phantom image of Divine Lord Jinyuan in front of him, he was still very excited. After all, it was rare to see an invincible Divine Lord. I stayed here to give you your rewards. You killed so many soul-devouring beasts and deserve the soul-strengthening elixir and this elixir recipe. With a wave of his hand, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image threw out an elixir recipe and a soul-strengthening elixir. Thank you, Divine Lord. Upon seeing the elixir recipe and soul-strengthening elixir floating in the air, Night Sorrow thanked him before looking at Yun Tianyi and saying, "You can choose first. Leave the rest to me." I choose the soul-strengthening elixir. It can strengthen the soul and is very useful to me. Yun Tianyi was not interested in alchemy. Without hesitation, he chose the soul-strengthening elixir. The elixir recipe of the soul-strengthening elixir? Night Sorrow, who took the elixir recipe, laughed when he saw the name of the elixir recipe. Yun Tianyi chose fish, but what he received was a fish. With the elixir recipe of the soul-strengthening elixir, he did not have to worry about a lack of soul-strengthening elixir in the future. I don't have much time. What do you want to ask? How about this, each of you ask a question and I'll try my best to answer. After Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image threw out the soul-strengthening elixir and the elixir recipe, it clearly became more transparent and would probably disappear soon. You can ask first. Night Sorrow already had a question in mind, but he let Yun Tianyi ask first. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yun Tianyi thought for a moment before asking, "Divine Lord, are you still alive?" This question surprised Night Sorrow. He originally thought that Yun Tianyi would ask about the opportunities in the cave abode. Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image hesitated for a moment before saying, "I definitely died back then. I'm not sure if I'm alive or dead now." In that case, there's a possibility of God's sovereign Jinyuan reviving? Yun Tianyi's eyes lit up when she got the answer. You think too much. What I mean is that this phantom has always been in the small world and doesn't know what's going on in the outside world. I believe that the real Divine Lord Jinyuan has already perished. What remains in the world should only be a few phantoms. After saying that, the phantom turned even dimmer. At this moment, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Ask away." I would like to ask Divine Lord, where is the letter you left for Senior Long Tianqing? Without any hesitation, Yi Shan asked directly. Tianqing? How is she now? Hearing this, the phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan clearly trembled. Senior Long's condition is still all right. Night Sorrow told him about Long Tianqing's situation and their karma. I have let her down. The phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan seemed to be immersed in his memories. After a while, he became so dim that he was almost invisible. Finally, he sighed and said, "The letter is in my coffin. My coffin is in the deepest part of the cave abode." This time, the phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan did not address himself as the real Divine Lord Jinyuan. After saying that, he completely dissipated into the air. At this moment, Yun Tianyi's condition was very bad. Night Sorrow helped her out of the cave abode and found a secluded corner to set up a concealment array so that she could recover. Night Sorrow took out some elixirs that he often used and placed them in an ordinary medicine bottle. He hung it on his belt. Sir God Jinyuan said that the letter was in his coffin and the coffin was in the deepest part of the cave abode. Night Sorrow decided that the next time he entered, he would not deliberately look for opportunities. Instead, he would go straight to the deepest part of the cave abode. To him, obtaining the letter and obtaining information about how to save his family was more important than anything else. Oh, someone is coming. Night Sorrow was not seriously injured. While Yun Tianyi was recovering, he had been guarding her and did not cultivate. While Yun Tianyi was recovering, Night Sorrow saw Mingyi's daughter, Mingyu, enter the cave abode with an invincible feather god and 5 or 6 cultivators who were close to the level of an invincible feather god. Mingyu, who had just become a half-step high god, was obviously not as strong as Linimo. However, after entering the cave abode, she did not come out. She must have a way to protect herself. That invincible feather god is obviously much stronger than Yuntiani. I wonder who he is. The invincible feather god that Mingyu had brought with her was definitely not the one that Zhuanghe had mentioned. Night Sorrow could not guess his identity. However, if Yuntiani was awake, she would definitely recognize him. He was Yen Jianan, ranked 27th on the feather god list. This Yen Jianan came from the martial god sect of the Heartless Divine Realm. He was Mingyu's senior brother. Although he was in the Heartless Divine Realm, he was not from there. More people are coming? Not long after Mingyu and the others entered, Mingyi's military advisor, King Mingzi, brought Mingyi's son, Mingjue, and 2 other invincible feather gods into the cave abode. They were in a hurry and seemed to be traveling at night. Because they were in a hurry to enter, they did not discover Yi Shang's concealment formation. Mingyi's daughter and son know that Wuxin's 3 invincible feather gods have entered. They even invited reinforcements. This is going to be a fight to the death. If I'm not mistaken, the reinforcements they invited must be stronger than Wuxin's 3 invincible feather gods. Although Night Sorrow did not know who Mingyu and Mingjue had invited, he knew that they were not weak. There are more people? No, this is the aura of a divine lord. Just then, Night Sorrow sensed an extremely dangerous aura. Without hesitation, he dragged Yuntiani into the cave abode. As soon as they disappeared into the cave abode, a huge handprint slammed toward them. It crashed into the cave abode with a boom. Why are there more divine lords here? The trip to the cave abode was getting more and more complicated. Night Sorrow waited for Yuntiani to wake up and tell him what he had seen. With a divine lord here, we can't leave the cave abode easily. If I had known, I would have taken out more elixirs. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yuntiani sighed and asked, Night Sorrow, how strong are you? If we encounter those people inside, do we have a chance of winning? After absorbing the soul-strengthening elixir, Yuntiani's divine soul had become much stronger. However, he was still weaker than some of the invincible feather gods who had entered. Hearing this, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, I don't know their true strength, but we should be able to escape unscathed. Now that he had the soul recovery elixir, he could use the 7-star Violent Alcade and master the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape. Night Sorrow felt that no matter what kind of feather god realm genius he encountered, he would be able to put up a fight. Then I know. Yuntiani smiled and said, They've all gone in. Let's go. Let's go. Night Sorrow nodded and walked into the cave abode with Yuntiani. Chapter 2489. The sounds of fighting came from the hall. Night Sorrow and Yuntiani were blocked in the passage. Let's go check it out. Be careful and control your aura. Night Sorrow instructed Yuntiani. Then, he concealed his aura and went to the exit of the passage. God Jinyuan's projection had said that the letter was in the coffin in the deepest part of the cave. Night Sorrow did not want to be delayed by anyone. He wanted to see if there was a chance to go over. Don't worry. I'll be careful. Yuntiani was mediocre compared to Night Sorrow, but she was still a genius on the God of Feathers list. His concealment skills were quite good. He followed behind Yishang and quietly crept up. The 2 of them hid at the entrance of the passage. They looked around and realized that the 2 parties fighting were Mingyu and Mingju. They were fighting near the stone pillar in the center of the hall. Qing Mingzi stood awkwardly at the side and tried to persuade them. Although he had come in with Mingju, he was Minghe's military advisor and could not attack Mingyu. Mingyu, who was dressed in black, and Mingju, who was dressed in white, were fighting fiercely. Although they were brother and sister, they had the same father but different mothers. Their mothers hated each other, so they had fought each other since they were young. Both of them had just broken through to the half-step Great God realm, and their defensive robes and divine weapons were more or less the same. They were evenly matched in battle. However, there were also saber lights and sword shadows, and danger was everywhere. Qin Mingzi was so anxious that he was jumping. But no matter how he tried to persuade them, they ignored him and continued to fight. They did not look like brother and sister at all. On the other side, Yan Jianan, who was ranked 27th on the God of Feathers list, was leading 5 cultivators who were close to the invincible Divine Feather Realm. They were fighting against 2 invincible Divine Feather Realm cultivators. Both sides were fighting fiercely, but they were holding back. They did not intend to fight to the death. They were evenly matched. Actually, with their strength and status, they did not need to give face to Mingyu and Mingju. But this opportunity was brought by the 2 siblings. They had to pretend. The battle was in full swing, but there wasn't much sweat, and neither side was really injured. Why are these 2 siblings fighting as soon as they come in? What a hindrance! Night Sorrow had never seen Mingyu before, but from Qin Mingzi's reaction, he understood that Minghe's children were fighting. It's actually Yan Jianan, Huang Lai, and Yun Tsungping. The 3 of them are ranked 27th, 41st, and 48th on the Divine Feathers list, respectively. Yun Tianyi was shocked when she saw the 2 sides fighting. Night Sorrow said, "These are the top 10 feather god experts in the Dark Moon's territory. It seems that our trip to the cave won't be too smooth." Yun Tianyi had an arrogant and unruly personality. It was very difficult for ordinary people to make him submit willingly. However, now that so many Feather God Realm experts had appeared, and they were all much stronger than him, this made him a little depressed. He felt that he had become a burden. Don't worry. It's not all about strength to find opportunities in the cave. Besides, we're not bad in terms of strength. So far, Night Sorrow had learned that the opponents were Shengguan Hai's group and Ming He's children's group. Their strength was about the same. In comparison, he and Yun Tianyi were not weak. However, they would only know the specific situation after they fought. Besides, there might be other experts that they did not know about. These were all variables. No one was 100% sure that they could come out on top. This is the first time that I, Yun Tianyi, have been a burden to others. This feeling is really terrible. Yun Tianyi had always been the top genius among the elites cultivated by the Dark Alliance. He was not used to the current situation. You can't think like that. You did very well in the small world just now. You didn't hold us back at all. Don't deny it. Besides, even if you're weaker, you can still turn the tables if you get the inheritance of the Divine Lord. Otherwise, all the opportunities in the cave will be taken by the strongest. Seeing that Yun Tianyi was a little negative, Night Sorrow comforted her. Fighting for treasures was indeed related to luck. Strength was very important, but sometimes it could not play a decisive role. After being comforted, Yun Tianyi obviously felt better and no longer worried about this matter. Looking at the 2 sides fighting, he said, "This hall is clear at a glance. There is no cover at all. It's not convenient for us to go over. What should we do next? Should we just keep watching?" Of course we can't keep watching. Shengguan Hai's group has been in there for a long time. We can follow them, but we can't fall too far behind. Otherwise, the big opportunities inside may be taken by them. Night Sorrow's purpose was to get the letter in the deepest part of the cave. It was okay to fall behind a little, but definitely not too far behind. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's go out and stop the fight." Stop the fight? Won't we be exposed? Isn't it better for us to stay in the dark? Yun Tianyi asked, puzzled. She felt that Night Sorrow's choice was a little risky. We're not weak. There's no need to hide. Instead of watching them fight, why don't we think of a way to stop them? Night Sorrow, who was confident in his own strength, stood up and walked to Qin Mingzi. He smiled and shouted, "Mr. Qin Mingzi, so you're here too. Master Night Sorrow, it's you? You're not affected by the soul-devouring evil wind?" The moment he saw Night Sorrow, Qin Mingzi was obviously a little stunned. His and Mingyi's children relied on the defensive robes of large sects to withstand the impact of the soul-devouring evil wind. He could not figure out how Night Sorrow, a middle-level feather god, could stand in the cave. In his opinion, Night Sorrow should have been plundered by the high god Feng Shaoyun until he was penniless. That was why he could keep his life. I was lucky to get a robe that can withstand the soul-devouring evil wind. Night Sorrow said perfunctorily and asked, Mr. Qing Mingzi, why are the children of Lord Mingyi fighting together? It's a long story. When Yi Shang had first appeared, both sides of the battle had used their soul power to investigate him. They found that Night Sorrow was only a middle-level feather god and knew Qing Mingzi. They treated him as heir and continued to fight fiercely. Only Mingyu saw Night Sorrow's figure and his eyes lit up. He shouted, Master Night Sorrow, help me kill Mingyu. We'll split any gains from this trip equally. She had seen Night Sorrow use the Samsara halberd to fight against the forbidden feather divine weapon in the Jubao Pavilion. According to her judgment, although Night Sorrow was not strong enough to deal with an invincible feather god, as long as he used the forbidden feather divine weapon, he would definitely be able to deal with Mingyu. I'm sorry. I'm indebted to Lord Mingyi and can't attack his son. Of course, it's the same for you. Chapter 2490. How long have they been inside? Yan Jiannan, who was in the middle of a battle, immediately shouted when he heard Night Sorrow's words. To him, the opportunities in the cave were more important. He wasn't interested in meaningless battles. They should have been inside for 2 or 3 years. Yun Tianyi slowly walked to Night Sorrow's side and replied on his behalf, blending into the crowd. Actually, 2 or 3 years was a short time in the heavenly realm, but no one wanted to fall behind. Hearing this, both sides were obviously anxious, but they were more concerned about Yun Tianyi, an expert on the feather god list. Yun Tianyi's appearance immediately made both sides wary. Although she was only ranked 100 on the feather god list, the balance would be broken no matter which side she joined. If the balance was broken, there would definitely be casualties if the battle continued. These people didn't see Night Sorrow's true strength, but they saw Yun Tianyi as a delicious cake. Yun Tianyi, come and help me. After we get out, I will give you a lot of resources. I guarantee that you will move up at least 10 places on the feather god list. There were only a dozen experts on the feather god list in the Dark Moon region, and they all knew each other. Yan Jiannan, who was ranked the highest, immediately shouted at Yun Tianyi. Yun Tianyi wasn't much of a threat to him, but she could be a disruptor. This made him feel a little pressured. It didn't matter if he didn't kill anyone, but Yan Jiannan naturally didn't want to be killed. Yun Tianyi, join us. Lingxi, the Divine King, will be your support in the future. Huang Lai, who was ranked 41st on the feather god list, immediately made a promise when he saw that Yan Jiannan wanted to recruit Yun Tianyi. In the Dark Moon region, the Divine King was undoubtedly the most powerful existence apart from the high and mighty ruler. Using the Divine King as bait was obviously more tempting than using Yan Jiannan. Upon hearing this, Yan Jiannan immediately said, Yun Tianyi, I, Yan Jiannan, not only have the Divine King behind me, but also the entire divine martial arts sect. Think about it carefully. The Divine King Gate is located in the Heartless Divine Domain. Is the Heartless Divine King behind you? Upon hearing Yan Jiannan's words, Yun Tianyi, who originally had no intention of attacking, unconsciously released a murderous aura. The Divine King Wu Xen had dealt a heavy blow to Hai Bei City. His father was one of those who had been suppressed, and now his whereabouts were unknown. What? You want to kill me? Yan Jiannan, who was fighting, didn't look at Yun Tianyi, but he could feel the murderous aura coming from him. Immediately, a trace of anger rose in him. However, when he thought of Yun Tianyi's words, Yan Jiannan suddenly laughed and said, There's no harm in telling you. Although I'm in the Heartless Divine Domain, the Divine King behind me is someone else. You can feel at ease and join my side. Yan Jiannan wasn't stupid at all. He could feel that Yun Tianyi's murderous aura was targeted at the Divine King, not him. Moreover, he didn't dare to anger Yun Tianyi at all. Join our side and you'll definitely get more benefits. For example, Yun Songping, who was beside Huang Lai, also tried to persuade him. He was more eloquent, and he endlessly promised many rewards. Forget it. It's better for a small fry like me to not participate in the fight between the two of you. Otherwise, you might not die, but I'll die anyway. At this moment, Yun Tianyi heard Night Sorrow's telepathic message and didn't continue to pester him. After saying that, he walked into the depths of the cave. Night Sorrow, who had been chatting with Qing Mingzi, saw Yun Tianyi walk away. He looked at Qing Mingzi apologetically and said, "I have to go." After saying that, Night Sorrow immediately followed after him. "So you've become someone's lackey. But it seems like you're not strong enough. It's easy to break." Ming Yu, who had been rejected by Night Sorrow, said coldly when he saw him quickly chasing after Yun Tianyi. Ming Yu was very vengeful. The next time they met, she would ask her helpers to kill Night Sorrow directly. "Young masters, please stop. We're here to snatch the opportunity. If you continue fighting, there won't be any soup left." The only idle person was Qing Mingzi. He was only an upper-level feather god. He was the weakest person present. If he wasn't proficient in Array Dao, he wouldn't even be qualified to enter. Seeing Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi leave, he couldn't stop them at all. He could only shout at Ming Yu and Ming Ju. If they continued fighting, it wouldn't benefit anyone. Hearing Qing Mingzi's words, Ming Yu and Ming Ju gradually separated. The others also returned to their own camps. This battle was considered to have come to an end. After that, they left the main hall and walked into the depths of the cave. After they left, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi returned to the main hall. Just like the passageway, let's look for clues carefully and see if we can find anything in the main hall. After returning to the main hall, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi said a few words. Then, they started to look for clues in the main hall. At this moment, Yun Tianyi asked curiously, "I remember that when we first came to this main hall, many skeleton puppets spawned near the stone pillars. Why are they gone now?" The place where the two groups were fighting was where the skeletons were originally spawned. Now, not a single skeleton could be seen. This was obviously strange. I feel that there are three possibilities. The first possibility is that the projection of the Divine Lord Zhenyuan helped us to remove the skeletons. These are obviously created by him, but this possibility is not high. The second possibility is that there is an array in the main hall that controls the skeleton's respawn, but it was destroyed by Ming Yu or Ming Ju. Night Sorrow naturally observed this situation. After explaining, he said in a more serious tone, "The third possibility is that the energy of the cave has weakened and is not enough to support the operation of some array. Therefore, the skeletons can't respawn. If this is the last possibility, we have to hurry if we want to seize the opportunity. Let's search this main hall as soon as possible." Yun Tianyi, who had already obtained benefits from the circular passageway and seen the projection of the Divine Lord Zhenyuan, did the same thing in the main hall. However, after the two of them searched carefully for 2 hours, Night Sorrow was the first to discover the situation. He used the power of his divine soul to investigate. In a stone that had been blown off by the soul-devouring evil wind, there was a fluctuation of life similar to the one in gravel. Last time, it was gravel. This time, it is a stone. Will it be too risky for us to go in? Yun Tianyi said with lingering fear as he recalled the terrifying experience in the gravel. After all, in terms of volume, a stone was dozens of times larger than a gravel. Although the stone is big, it contains a similar amount of life energy. I estimate that the strength of the creatures in the small world should be about the same as the ones in the gravel. Let's learn the array patterns first. Night Sorrow, who was not sure what was inside, but there was definitely a fluctuation of life energy, started to learn the array patterns on the stone as soon as he finished speaking. Night Sorrow, who had already learned the array patterns on the gravel, took less time than the last time to learn something similar. It only took him about 20 days. Yun Tianyi's improvement was obviously greater. The last time he learned the array patterns on the gravel, it took him more than 2 years. This time, it only took him 3 months. Your comprehension has improved a lot. Is it related to the soul-strengthening elixir? Night Sorrow asked after seeing Yun Tianyi's performance. After taking the soul-strengthening elixir, the power of my divine soul has increased significantly. My comprehension has also improved greatly. The things given by the Divine Lord are indeed extraordinary. If he had not learned the array patterns, Yun Tianyi would not have realized that his comprehension had improved so much. Now that he had made this discovery, he could not wait to say, Now that we have mastered the array patterns on this stone, why don't we strike while the iron is hot and go in and try our luck? If it is still the same as the world in the gravel, you will continue to cooperate with me. Otherwise, we will act according to the circumstances. Night Sorrow instructed and took the lead to enter the small world contained in the stone. Don't worry. With the previous experience, we will definitely finish the battle quickly and catch up with the people in front. Chapter 2491. This time, as soon as they entered the small world, Yun Tianyi laughed. She said in surprise, it's exactly the same as the previous small world. Let's fight according to the previous routine. Yes, you suffered quite a bit last time. Be careful this time. Night Sorrow, who had instructed Yun Tianyi, took the Samsara halberd from his back and charged forward. Facing billions of soul-devouring beasts, he had the aura of an unstoppable person. The Samsara halberd's appearance had changed greatly. It usually restrained its aura and didn't release flames. Qin Qingzi didn't see its grade and thought it was an ordinary feather god weapon. Who would have thought that its grade was almost at the peak of the exalted god level? With the previous experience, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi cooperated more tacitly this time. Yun Tianyi didn't suffer any heavy injuries and successfully killed all the soul-devouring beasts. However, God Jinyuan's projection didn't appear this time. After the small world was blasted, it immediately turned into a bronze fragment. From the looks of it, it should be a quarter of a bronze key. It should be a part of a key. It might have something to do with the opportunity later. Yun Tianyi took the bronze fragment and looked at it. She didn't see anything special about it, so she threw it to Night Sorrow. Yi Shang placed the bronze shard in his hand and looked at it for a while before saying, I hope you're right. If Yun Tianyi's guess was correct, the two of them wouldn't be in a hurry at all. Because this key fragment was in their hands, the people in front would definitely not be able to obtain the most important opportunity. However, this was an uncertain matter. Night Sorrow couldn't use it as insurance. He put the bronze fragment into his pocket and stood up. Let's continue. Although we can be the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, it's also the easiest to fall into other people's traps. Yes, those who can have a place on the feather god list have all fought for it. None of them are simple. I will be careful. Yun Tianyi nodded. Night Sorrow gave off a very stable vibe. Now, Yun Tianyi felt that Elder Zhuang he had found the right person. There shouldn't be anything left to search in the hall. Although they found a small world in the hall, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi still searched the hall thoroughly before moving on. Walking out of the hall, the two of them immediately walked into an even wider world. This world contained the sun and moon, as well as mountains and rivers. It looked very grand. However, the creatures within were all gigantic skeletal puppets. There were low-rank high-god skeletal dragons that soared in the air, and mid-rank high-god skeletal birds that breathed fire. There were even more creatures that ran on the ground. Almost every 1,000 miles, there would be a deity-level skeleton. Some of them were even at the higher god level, and their auras were extremely shocking. Ming Yu and Ming Ju were nowhere to be seen. Looking at the skeletons on the ground, they must have chosen two different paths. Where do we go now? The world in front of them was too vast, and the path was no longer directional. Yun Tianyi turned to look at Night Sorrow beside her. Let's not go for now. Night Sorrow shook his head and said, search this world bit by bit and see if we can find a similar small world. But isn't this world too big? And there are high god skeletal puppets everywhere. It's obviously not easy to search. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yun Tianyi retorted. Looking at it, this world was boundless and there was no end in sight. If they used their divine soul power to search casually, they would be discovered by the skeletal puppets. Now that this area was obviously wider, there might be some high-level arrays. It would be very dangerous if they accidentally entered. It was not easy to search bit by bit. It will be difficult to search thoroughly. Our main goal is to wait. Ming Yu and Ming Ju must not have gone far. If I'm not wrong, they should be fighting with the skeletal puppets not far away. Pointing to the highest mountain in the distance, Night Sorrow continued, "After we determine their location, we will go up this mountain and occupy a commanding position to observe this world. Then we will decide which path to take." "What if they also choose the highest mountain?" Yun Tianyi continued to ask. Although he felt that there was no skill in climbing a mountain to look into the distance, he felt that Night Sorrow's words made sense. But if they could think of it, so could others. The mountain is so big. It doesn't matter if there are a few more groups. Night Sorrow looked into the distance and said, "And we are not afraid of them. We just don't want to cause more trouble." As soon as he finished speaking, a great battle broke out on a hillside hundreds of thousands of miles away. There should be people fighting with the skeletal puppets. A battle has broken out. While Yun Tianyi sighed, a great battle broke out on the other side of the hillside. "Let's go." The positions of the two groups were more or less confirmed. Night Sorrow used his power of merit to open a path and search. Yun Tianyi followed behind him. Night Sorrow had the power of merit to protect him. Some of the skeletal puppets felt uncomfortable and automatically retreated. But those who were stronger would still attack fiercely. Inevitably, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi also began to fight with the skeletal puppets. After killing more than 10 skeletal puppets with the strength of upper-level gods, the two of them successfully reached the peak. The speed at which they reached the peak was about the same as the other two groups. Standing on the peak, they saw at the same time that on the other side of the mountain, hundreds of thousands of miles away, there was a palace that reached into the clouds. This palace was built with bluestone. The top of the palace reached into the clouds. It was extremely grand. "It's clear where to go now." Looking at the bluestone palace in the distance, Yun Tianyi yearned for it. But at this moment, Ming Yu and her group rushed in the direction of Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi. Ming Yu's face was gloomy and there was a clear murderous look in her eyes. She was very vengeful and wanted to kill Night Sorrow immediately. Yan Jiannan's expression was more relaxed, but there was a clear murderous look in his movements. In Yan Jiannan's opinion, he was the strongest in this trip to the cave abode. But Yun Tianyi was the troublemaker. He was prepared to kill Yun Tianyi as soon as possible to prevent him from becoming a variable. This idea coincided with Ming Yu's. The two of them discussed and were prepared to attack Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi as soon as possible. They did not want to give Ming Ju a chance to react. As long as the two of them were killed, everything would be fine. "Should we fight or retreat?" Yun Tianyi asked Night Sorrow when she saw that the other party was coming at her aggressively. He was no match for Yan Jiannan's strength. If they fought, he would probably only be able to deal with a few nameless feather gods. So he was not confident. Moreover, he still could not see through Night Sorrow. He did not know if he could fight against Yan Jiannan, who was ranked 27th on the feather god list. After all, Yan Jiannan was one of the top 5 feather gods in the entire Dark Moon Divine Realm. "My principle is that I will not attack unless I am attacked." With a smile on his face, Yishan looked at Yan Jiannan and the others who were rushing over and said, "However, if someone wants to harm us, we should deal with them quickly. Otherwise, there will be no variables in the palace. If we are surrounded, it will be difficult to deal with them." Night Sorrow's meaning was similar to Yan Jiannan's. However, he was the feather god of merit. He would not kill for no reason just to steal treasures. Chapter 2492. The soul-devouring evil wind at the top of the mountain was obviously stronger than on the plains. Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi felt the wind blow against their faces. Their robes fluttered in the wind as they looked into the distance. At this moment, Yan Jiannan was leading Ming Yu and 5 other cultivators who were close to the level of an undefeatable feather god. They were rushing through the soul-devouring evil wind. Not long after, they encountered a lower high deity realm bone dragon soaring in the sky and engaged in a fierce battle with it. "Senior brother Yan, those two saw us coming, but they didn't run. It's strange." The 5 cultivators who were close to the level of an undefeatable feather god were all Yan Jiannan's junior brothers. The strongest male cultivator was called Yan Tianhua. He was careful. While fighting the bone dragon, he kept an eye on Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi. He found it strange that the two didn't run away while they were fighting. They probably know they can't run away, so they want to join us. Yan Jianan, who was fighting the bone dragon with his bare hands, sneered. That's a good idea, but it's too late. Those who reject me, Yan Jianan, can only die. The murderous intent in his words made Mingyu, who was beside him, tremble slightly. Mingyu was a little afraid of Yan Jianan. He felt that the murderous intent he inadvertently revealed made him tremble. Senior brother is very powerful. He's one of the top 5 feather gods in the Dark Moon. Let's see how you can fight him. In the soul-devouring evil wind, Mingyu glanced at Yan Jianan, then looked coldly at Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi. She found it funny that they were standing there and waiting. It was normal that Night Sorrow didn't help, but to her, it made her miss the chance to kill Mingyu. It was unforgivable. Yan Jianan is indeed very strong. I'm definitely not his match. I'll leave him to you. I should be able to deal with the others. For an undefeatable feather god, a normal half-step high god is nothing. When Yun Tianyi saw Yan Jianan easily suppressing the lesser high god skeletal dragon with his bare hands, he felt uneasy and irritated. Yan Jianan's murderous intent was very strong. It surrounded him like a mist, making people uncomfortable. Okay, leave him to me. Night Sorrow nodded and didn't say anything. Although Yan Jian was a feather god, he was definitely stronger than most high gods. However, Zhang Xian would have to wait until the battle began before he could reveal his trump cards. It didn't take long for Yan Jianan and the others to kill the bone dragon with ease. They followed the path on the mountain ridge and arrived in front of Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi. Yan Jianan had a cold smile on his face as he looked at Yun Tianyi. With a cold tone he said, "Speak. How do you wish to die? Don't join us. How do you want to die? Of course, I want you to die. Aren't you only ranked 27th on the Feather God list? Do you really think you're undefeatable? Next year will be the anniversary of your deaths." Since he had chosen to fight, Yun Tianyi didn't hold back. He arrogantly retorted. His arrogance wasn't inferior to Yan Jianan's at all. "Oh, I didn't see it. Yun Tianyi, you've grown quite a bit. You're only ranked 100th on the Feather God list, yet you dare to be so arrogant?" Yan Jianan didn't expect Yun Tianyi to be so arrogant. Instead of getting angry, he laughed. "I can't be undefeatable. But if a few more of you come, I can kill them all with one hand. It's natural that I'm weaker than you. But today, your opponent is Night Sorrow." Yun Tianyi took a few steps back and looked at Night Sorrow. "Brother Yi, I'll leave Yan Jianan to you. Okay, you go deal with the others." Night Sorrow nodded. Everyone's attention was on Yun Tianyi. Night Sorrow was completely ignored. At this moment, Yan Jianan looked at Night Sorrow and laughed. "Hi, you're just a mid-tier feather god, but you're actually the feather god of merit. If I can kill you and obtain your providence, then I, Yan Jianan, will have a chance of reaching the top 10 on the feather god list." What a pleasant surprise. Night Sorrow had been using his power of merit to protect himself. His body was surrounded by golden light. Yan Jianan hadn't noticed until now. It was obvious how much he despised Night Sorrow. "You won't be able to steal my providence just by saying that." Night Sorrow could sense Yan Jianan's contempt. He didn't care about it at all. His opponent's aura was very strong. He should be much stronger than Yun Tianyi, but he was still as calm as a mountain. "You're very good. You're still so calm. I admire your ignorance and courage." Yan Jianan's voice trembled as he said, "All of you attack together and deal with Yun Tianyi. I'll kill this person. No one can snatch it from me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." Yan Jianan was determined to obtain Night Sorrow's providence. He felt that this was a pleasant surprise from the heavens. "Hurry up and attack. Let me see how strong the top 30 geniuses on the Feather God list are." Night Sorrow was looking forward to this battle. His battle intent immediately rose. He had been in the divine realm for a while, but he hadn't fought with geniuses of the same level. He wasn't sure how strong he was in the divine realm. "You're very confident. I wonder who gave you this courage. I'll let you understand why some feather gods are so powerful that even the high gods have to bow before them." Yan Jianan's junior brothers and Ming Yu immediately surrounded Yun Tianyi after he shouted the word, "Kill," in a cold tone. As for himself, he condensed his divine essence energy and sent a palm strike at Yishan. Yan Jianan's palm strike was even stronger than Yun Tianyi's secret technique. According to his judgment, this level of attack couldn't be blocked unless one was on the Feather God list. He wanted to kill Night Sorrow with a single palm strike and steal his providence. This method of attack was a great humiliation. Clearly, he still didn't see Night Sorrow as a real opponent. "You're too arrogant. I hope you can maintain this confidence." Night Sorrow wanted to test his strength and didn't use the Green Phoenix armor to protect him. Being looked down upon like this, he didn't even use his primordial spirit energy. Instead, he welcomed Yan Jianan's attack with a palm strike. Interesting. So your body is very strong. No wonder you dare to be so impudent in front of me. However, you're too naive if you think you can fight me with just a strong body. You think your body is strong? I'll kill you with a single slap. It'll be like swatting a fly. Yan Jianan was a little embarrassed that his attack didn't succeed. He immediately used his secret technique to increase his strength and sent another palm strike towards Night Sorrow. This palm strike was the same as the previous one, but the power was completely different. Whether it was the aura or the strength, it was several times stronger. He was so arrogant that he wanted to kill Night Sorrow with a single slap. He wanted to show off his strength. Again? You're courting death. I think you should have a taste of my palm strike. Night Sorrow was very unhappy with Yan Jianan's arrogance. He used the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape technique to dodge this attack. Then he used his Essence Smoke and Astral Domination body to gather his Divine Origin energy to his right hand. He wanted to give Yan Jianan a taste of his own medicine. Since you want to kill me, I'll kill you. Chapter 2493. Boom! Faced with Night Sorrow's super strong body and shocking strength, Yan Jianan was still smacked into the mountain, even though he tried his best to block the attack. A huge crater was formed where he was standing. Countless pieces of gravel were sent flying in all directions. What's going on? Yan Jianan had wanted to smack Night Sorrow to death, but he had been smacked into the ground by Night Sorrow. Wasn't this a slap in the face? Yan Jianan and the others did not expect that their senior brother would be at a disadvantage, and his face would be smacked swollen. You're so fierce. It's not shameful for me to lose to you. Yun Tianyi, who was fighting with them, smiled. The haze of being suppressed by Night Sorrow had completely dissipated. According to his judgment, Night Sorrow's current strength was probably enough to rank in the top 60 of the Feather God list. It was normal for such a person to suppress him. Moreover, this was just the beginning. Night Sorrow definitely had some strength left. This proved that he definitely had the strength to advance further on the Feather God list. Bastard! I underestimated you. It seems like you deliberately hid your strength. You're definitely not a mid-tier Feather God. Yan Jianan, who had jumped out of the crater, looked very pathetic. His body was covered in mud. He used his God Essence energy to remove the mud. He stared coldly at Night Sorrow and said, "You're indeed much stronger than Yun Tianyi, but I'll definitely kill you today. Think what you want. I've said it before. If you want to take away my providence, just talking is useless. Show me what you're capable of." Yan Jianan's body was protected by the stellar energy, so his body was quite sturdy. He didn't suffer any serious injuries after being hit by that palm. Facing such an opponent, Yishang's fighting spirit soared. I, Yan Jianan, will not only kill you today, but I will also kill you with my palm. Being slapped into the ground by Night Sorrow made Yan Jianan lose all face. His pride was extremely strong, and he stubbornly wanted to slap back. As he roared, he continued to use his secret technique to increase his strength. Then he exploded, "Take my ultimate move, Divine Palm." This time, Yan Jianan still unleashed a palm strike, but this time he used an invincible Feather God level technique. Good timing. This palm was obviously stronger than the previous one, but this time, Night Sorrow did not choose to dodge. While using the vital essence smoke and the star's mighty body, he raised his power of merit to the strongest state and fought back. Night Sorrow had only been in the god world for a short period of time, so he had yet to learn any absolute arts. However, his power of merit had reached the pinnacle of the feather god level. Whether it was used for defense or offense, it could erupt with great power. His counterattack was obviously not weaker than Yan Jiannan's divine palm. With a boom, Yan Jiannan was not smacked into the ground this time. Instead, he was blasted into the sky, almost flying into the sky. After being hit by the palm imbued with the power of virtue, countless cracks appeared on Yan Jiannan's high god defensive robe. Moreover, his luck was obviously affected when fighting against Night Sorrow, who had power of merit. As he flew into the sky, he encountered a mid-level high god level bone phoenix. The phoenix spat out a mouthful of flames and burned him until he screamed in pain. Damn it! All of you deserve to die. After being injured consecutively, Yan Jiannan, who had thought that he was in control of the battle, became crazed. He hovered in the air and roared, "Wake up! Blood Lotus Throne!" In an instant, a dark red lotus throne the size of a fingertip tied to his waist grew 1,000,000 times larger. Then, like a millstone, it crushed down on the mid-level high god level bone phoenix. After being continuously struck by the dark red blood fiend lotus platform, the bone phoenix 9 was smashed into pieces and completely fell onto the mountain slope. Night Sorrow, you've done well. You've successfully forced me to use my divine artifact. Yan Jiannan, who had flown back from afar, no longer mentioned the matter of slapping Yishang to death. Instead, he sent his blood fiend lotus platform, which was filled with fiendish aura, straight towards Yishang. The murderous aura is so thick. Your divine artifact must have devoured a lot of blood energy. No wonder you're so murderous. You'll be a disaster if I let you live. The lotus throne was originally made of red flowers, white lotus roots, and green lotus leaves. It was a symbol of purity and holiness. Now, Yan Jiannan had refined it into a murderous object. Night Sorrow didn't want to let such a person go. He took the Samsara halberd from his back and fought against the blood lotus throne. He wanted to shatter this evil object. On the other side, Ming Yu and the others were locked in a stalemate with Yun Tianyi. When they saw that Night Sorrow had defeated Yan Jiannan consecutively and forced him to use his strongest artifact, they were so shocked that they didn't know what to say. They were distracted during the battle and allowed Yun Tianyi to injure 2 of them. How did this Night Sorrow become so strong? He didn't have this ability when he wreaked havoc in Jubao Pavilion. Was he hiding his strength all along? Damn it, I should have helped him back then. When he saw that Night Sorrow and Yan Jiannan were evenly matched, Ming Yu was shocked. In the entire Dark Moon Divine Realm, there were no more than 5 feather gods who could fight against Yan Jiannan. If nothing went wrong, Night Sorrow would become famous in the entire Dark Moon Divine Realm. Not only did she not make friends with such a person, but she also became enemies because of her extreme personality. This made Ming Yu very depressed. At this moment, she regretted that she didn't help Night Sorrow at Jubao Pavilion that day. Otherwise, she would be Night Sorrow's friend by now. How dare you be distracted while fighting me? Ming Yu had just broken through to half-step high god and there was a big gap between her strength and Yun Tianyi's. At this moment, she was distracted in the battle and was stabbed in the chest by a sword. If it weren't for the amazing defensive power of the divine martial sex robe, she would have been killed. Protect Ming Yu. Yan Jiannan, who was fighting Night Sorrow in the distance, saw that Ming Yu was stabbed and immediately shouted. Although the inferior feather gods sent by Ming Yi were weak, when they entered the cave, the soul-devouring evil wind and the various skeletons and puppets were not as strong as they were now. Therefore, they obtained a lot of useful information. Ming Yu and Ming Ju knew this information. Yan Jiannan naturally didn't want Ming Yu to be killed. After all, she was like a living map. Yes, senior brother. Hearing Yan Jiannan's order, Yan Tianhua responded and ordered the others, form the Divine Martial Starry Formation. The Divine Martial Starry Formation was originally a trump card that they had prepared. They didn't expect to be forced to use it before they even started fighting for the treasure. After forming the Divine Martial Starry Formation, the 5 half-step high gods of the Divine Martial sect seemed to have merged into one body and become the real invincible feather gods. Fighting with the 5, Yun Tianyi gradually felt more and more exhausted. His raw strength was obviously not as strong as the 5 who had formed the formation. However, at this moment, he glanced at Night Sorrow and Yen Jianan who were fighting and found that Night Sorrow's Samsara halberd was ruthlessly suppressing the Blood Evil Lotus as if it was assisted by God. 2 of the 12 corners of the Blood Evil Lotus had been broken. Yen Jianan was also covered in blood. Obviously, he was weaker than Night Sorrow. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been suppressed like this. Brother Yi has gained the upper hand. It seems that I can stake everything and use my secret skill. With this thought, Yun Tianyi used a powerful secret skill to increase his strength by several times. He used his most powerful skill, the non-phase sword formation. The 5 experts of the Divine Martial sect formed the Divine Martial Starry Formation. Yun Tianyi's non-phase sword formation was not as powerful as the Divine Martial Starry Formation, but it was enough for defense. Hang in there. I'll be done soon. Glancing at Yun Tianyi, Night Sorrow couldn't help much in the battle. Chapter 2494. Have a taste of my forbidden spear. Night Sorrow, who had already gained the upper hand, was unwilling to use the 7-star violent light shaking sword. That was because it would consume a spiritual recovery pill. Using such a consumption in a battle was clearly a little wasteful. He used the evolved Samsara halberd to unleash a brand new forbidden spear. This spear contained a powerful Samsara power. After being hit, Yen Jianan's Blood Fiend Lotus platform immediately dropped a grade. Its defensive power was greatly reduced. It was no longer realistic to use it to defend against Night Sorrow's attack. You're forcing my hand. Secret Art of Burning Blood. After being continuously suppressed by Night Sorrow, Yen Jianan was completely enraged. He roared as he burned his blood to increase his strength. He activated the strongest attack of the Blood Fiend Lotus platform. Blood Lotus Emerge. Yen Jianan used the Blood Fiend Lotus platform to unleash this move. A bloody rain immediately drifted down from the sky. This bloody rain cooperated with Yen Jianan's divine domain and directly enveloped Night Sorrow. Then, the remaining 10 horns of the Blood Fiend Lotus platform all turned into sharp blades and flew up to attack Night Sorrow, who was wielding the Samsara halberd and had his hair fluttering in the wind. Filth, purify for me. Yen Jianan's divine domain was like an Azura's blood field. It gave Night Sorrow a very uncomfortable feeling. He roared and transformed the power of virtue into a dragon that devoured and purified the bloody rain around him. Awoo! After the golden dragon of virtue flew out, the bloody rain that filled the sky seemed to be suddenly illuminated by the sun. It instantly became sacred. Under the purification of the dragon of virtue, the bloody rain in the air was quickly dispersed. Yen Jianan's divine domain was naturally unable to suppress Night Sorrow. He wielded the Samsara halberd and directly unleashed the forbidden 10 spears. These 10 spear strikes were as fast as lightning, and they were accompanied by blood-red flames. Compared to the 10 simple spear strikes from before, they were countless times more powerful. One after another, they struck down the 10 horns that flew out from the Blood Fiend Lotus throne. After being burned by the flames of the Samsara halberd, the 10 horns of the Blood Fiend Lotus platform were burned to ashes before they could even fly back. This made Yen Jianan's heart ache. Bastard! If I don't use my life-risking move, I will lose this battle. But if I use my life-saving move here, it's not worth it. Looks like I can only retreat now. Yen Jianan was a Blood Fiend Lotus platform. After being continuously suppressed, of course, Yen Jianan felt very uneasy. After pondering for a moment, he felt that it would be meaningless to use a life-saving technique here, even if he could defeat Yi Sorrow. It was even possible that Ming Ju's group would be the aureole behind the mantis. Thus, he unwillingly roared, "Everyone, use the blood escape technique." Then he turned into a bloody mist and disappeared from the world. Using the blood escape technique? Did senior brother lose? Yan Tianhua and the others, who were suppressing Yun Tianyi, were stunned. They did not expect Yan Jianan to lose. But since Yan Jianan had lost and escaped, they would not continue fighting. The 5 of them and Ming Yu used the Blood Fiend Lotus platform and disappeared. Brother Yi, you really defeated Yan Jianan. You will become a popular person in the Dark Moon Divine Realm when you get out of here. Yun Tianyi praised in admiration when he saw Yi Shang defeat Yan Jianan unscathed, allowing the other party to execute a secret technique and escape. Now, he was no longer arrogant when facing Night Sorrow. His eyes were full of respect. Wait a moment. This battle is not over yet. Night Sorrow had not given up completely. He waved the Samsara halberd and shot a spear into the void in the distance. The spear had an unstoppable momentum. Following a few screams, Yan Jianan and the others were all blasted out of the void by Night Sorrow. They fell to the ground one after another, looking very miserable. They attracted the attacks of several skeleton puppets. One of them was a bone ape with the strength of an upper-level high deity. The skeletal ape was as big as a mountain. When it saw Yan Jianan and the others descending into its territory, it immediately raised its hand and slapped out a palm strike. Although the slap did not kill Yan Jianan, it killed 2 of his junior brothers. Ming Yu, who was already injured, was lucky. He landed later and was not hit by the slap. Otherwise, she would have been slapped to death. Use the Blood Fiend Lotus platform again. Yan Jianan was furious that 2 of his junior brothers had died. But he did not want to continue fighting. Using the Blood Fiend Lotus platform again would consume a lot of energy. But in order to escape, he did not care so much. Under his command, Ming Yu and the others used the Blood Fiend Lotus platform again and disappeared instantly. This time, Night Sorrow could sense their location. But he did not want to attract the attacks of the skeleton puppets. So he did not do it. So he slowly floated down from the sky. Night Sorrow, who had landed on the mountain peak, looked at Yun Tianyi and said, "Rest up and adjust to your best condition. Then, we will march to the Green Stone Palace. The real competition will only begin in the palace." Yan Jianan must have held back. But it is already a miracle that you can defeat him as a middle-level god of feathers. I feel that the current you should be in a state where you are invincible among those of the same level. Yun Tianyi, who had consumed 2 recovery elixirs, said with sincere admiration. The realm of the gods is full of talents. I have not accumulated enough and my moves are a little monotonous. Night Sorrow felt that he was lacking in absolute arts. His moves in battle were a little monotonous. This was a problem he had to solve. This proves that you have great potential. There is still a lot of room for improvement. I estimate that you are now around the 20th place on the feather list. Once you have accumulated enough, you should be able to reach the top 10. Once you become an upper-level feather god, you might be able to reach the top 5, Yun Tianyi said enviously. To him, this was unattainable. The top 10 on the feather list were all legends of the realm of the gods. They had accumulated a lot of experience, but they had not broken through to the high god level because they wanted to be perfect. Only with a good foundation would they have a chance to become a divine king or even a sovereign. Perhaps it would be a lie if Yi Shang said that he didn't care about these rankings at all. However, compared to these, he wanted to quickly become stronger so that he could protect his family and allow the Night Moon dynasty to truly have a place in the celestial realm. After Yun Tianyi recovered, Night Sorrow, who had not expended any energy, said, "Let's go down the mountain and walk to the Green Stone Palace. During this process, don't forget to pay attention to the details of the surroundings. Also, I feel that the terrain here is a little strange. There might be some array formations here." Although the Green Stone Palace was right in front of them, Night Sorrow felt that the path to the palace might not be smooth. If Ji Hao, Sheng Guanhai, and Leng Ningxin could hear Night Sorrow's words, they would definitely agree. At this moment, the 3 of them were trapped in a maze formation and could not escape. Let's be careful. There should be no problem, right? Brother Yi, you are very strong. You should be good at array formations, right? Yun Tianyi asked as they rushed down the mountain to the green stone palace. I know a little. I'm afraid that God Jinyuan's cave residence is not enough. Night Sorrow said honestly. He was not trying to be humble. Compared to God Jinyuan, his array formation skills were indeed much weaker. In the end, Night Sorrow's words came true. Chapter 2495. After entering this array formation, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi discovered that this was a world of birds and flowers. It gave them a sense of tranquility. This sense of tranquility made them sleepy. Before they had gone far, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi's eyelids were so sore that they couldn't open them at all. Brother Yi, I'm too sleepy. I'm going to sleep for a while. With a plop, Yun Tianyi's body sank. He fell directly onto the lush green lawn and fell asleep without caring about anything else. Night Sorrow was very surprised that he fell asleep so quickly. At this moment, although Night Sorrow's eyelids were a little heavy, his consciousness was still relatively clear. This might have something to do with his deity Ocean. While his mind was clear, he observed his surroundings and discovered that there was a colorful green field in front of him. Behind this green field, there was an ancient forest with a faint mist drifting around it. The mist in the ancient forest gradually spread to the green field and then to Night Sorrow's side. This made his thoughts slow down. I can't sleep. I can't sleep. Yun Tianyi soon began to snore. Night Sorrow, who felt the boundless sleepiness attacking him, shook his deity Ocean and erupted with a powerful soul power to resist this sleepiness. There was no time in the deity realm. Night Sorrow understood that if he fell asleep, he might not wake up many years later. Not only would he not be able to fight for the letter from God Jinyuan, but he would also miss the opportunity to save concubine Wu Lingfei. What kind of array formation is this? It can actually trap a cultivator of the divine feather realm like this? Night Sorrow, who was barely able to open his eyelids, looked at the scenery in front of him vaguely. He felt that all the trees were swaying around as if they were hypnotizing him. I can't sleep. I definitely can't sleep. Night Sorrow, who really couldn't resist the sleepiness, was a little short-circuited. He couldn't figure out what was going on with this array formation. At the moment when he was about to fall asleep, he roared and used Essence Chi Smoke and Astral Domination Body. However, he only became alert for a short while before he became sleepy again. The sudden sleepiness was as if he couldn't resist it. It was very terrifying. Break! Night Sorrow, who had no other choice, suddenly cut off his left arm and used the everlasting body forging art to absorb it. The pain of his broken bones finally made him more alert. At this moment, Night Sorrow's senses became sharper and he smelled a familiar scent. The smell of Tao Comprehension wine. It seems to be Tao Comprehension wine. If I drink a few mouthfuls, my divine sense will definitely become clear. With this discovery, Night Sorrow was immediately motivated. He took out his samsara halberd and stabbed it into Yun Tianyi's thigh. He roared, "Get up, you can't sleep." What's wrong? Yun Tianyi was woken up by the stab of the spear. She only felt a little pain, but she didn't completely wake up. Hurry up and wake up, you can't sleep here. Night Sorrow directly lifted Yun Tianyi up and slapped her cheeks. However, not long after, Night Sorrow felt that he couldn't take it anymore. Therefore, he left Yun Tianyi and staggered towards the direction of the wine fragrance. His footsteps were a little messy, but no matter how much he swayed, he didn't fall down. I'm close. I'm less than 100 miles away from the wine fragrance. Hold on a little longer. Feeling that he could still hold on, Night Sorrow didn't continue to use the everlasting body forging art. If he used it recklessly, even if he could leave this illusion array, he would need a long time to recover. It would be disadvantageous for him in the fight for the Divine Lord's cave. So much Tao Comprehension wine? What a huge amount of resources! Night Sorrow walked in a daze. Suddenly he saw a 10-mile square lake in the forest in front of him. The lake was actually filled with Tao Comprehension wine. Even in a sleepy state, Night Sorrow suddenly became excited. He moved quickly and pounced towards the lake. However, just as Night Sorrow was about to jump into the lake, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine as he sensed a strong sense of danger. This deadly sense of crisis made him sober up a lot in an instant. Bam! Suddenly, Night Sorrow's body was flung thousands of miles away by a huge dragon tail. This attack had the power to destroy heaven and earth. If it weren't for the blue phoenix battle armor automatically protecting him, Night Sorrow might have been killed. That was close. The azure phoenix battle armor, which should have been able to defend against the attacks of a high god, was severely damaged in order to block this attack. Now, it was probably only able to defend against the attacks of a low god. Night Sorrow, who was suddenly attacked, was still a little tired, but his consciousness was completely clear. He discovered that the lake was becoming bigger and bigger. It went from a 10-mile square lake to a boundless ocean. There was no trace of the Tao comprehension wine at all. It was all an illusion. At the same time, a huge dragon rose from the surface of the sea. This dragon looked a little strange. It looked a little like a snake and was a little round. It was surrounded by a thick sea serpent aura. It was this aura that made Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi extremely tired. This is the sea serpent. Intermediate exalted god sea serpent. So you're the one who made me so tired. Although his life was threatened and his body was still being corroded by the sea serpent aura, Night Sorrow's mind was no longer in a mess. He swallowed a few recovery pills and directly used the 7-star violent light shaking art. With the addition of the Essence Chi smoke beacon, the star's hegemonic body, and the power of virtue that had been fully utilized, Night Sorrow was in a much better state. Seeing Night Sorrow wake up, the sea serpent immediately spat out a mouthful of turbid sea serpent aura. This mouthful of sea serpent aura spread for thousands of miles, completely covering the space between the sea serpent and Night Sorrow. Then, countless images appeared in front of Night Sorrow's eyes. There was the grass and trees of Bamboo Garden Village, the changes in the 9 regions world, and the many sceneries of the celestial realm. There was Night Sorrow's children cultivating together, Night Sorrow's wife drinking tea and chatting, and even Papa Gu and Yi Linghuan drinking together. Grandpa. When these images appeared, Night Sorrow's face revealed a trace of intoxication. But after seeing his grandpa Yi Linghuan, his soul shook, and he woke up again. As soon as he arrived in the divine realm, Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Linghuan were tortured to a state worse than death. This matter had always been in Night Sorrow's heart. When he saw Papa Gu and Yi Linghuan drinking together, he immediately woke up and remembered where he was. This was Lord God Jinyuan's cave abode, and he was fighting with a sea serpent. After waking up, Night Sorrow used the void escape technique to travel through the void and directly appeared in front of the sea serpent. He waved the heavenly samsara halberd and used the fiery demon subduing spear. The fiery demon subduing spear was an area of effect attack. It covered a large area and burned the sea serpent's huge body into a fiery red. The sea serpent immediately dived back into the sea after being burned by the flames that contained the true phoenix bloodline. Its sea serpent aura was terrifying, but its defense wasn't strong. Reincarnation spear. Night Sorrow, who had condensed his power to the strongest state, immediately chased after it and used the heavenly samsara halberd to attack with the reincarnation attribute. Even though the sea serpent didn't drop from mid-level high god to low-level high god, its sea serpent aura weakened greatly. Chapter 2496. Seeing that the situation was not right, the sea serpent spat out an even stronger sea serpent dragon aura. This was its trump card. After spitting out this sea serpent dragon aura, its cultivation level dropped from mid-level high god to low-level high god. Its aura was obviously weakened. Break. This time, Night Sorrow did not dodge or attack in the face of the sea serpent dragon's aura. Gathering his divine Yuan Qi, he transformed it into divine Yuan Qi and let out a loud roar. The sea serpent dragon's aura was shattered before it could form any mirages. Seeing that the situation was not good, the sea serpent dragon fled frantically. Where do you think you're going? Yi Shang roared and used the vanishing shadow void escape to chase after him. The sea serpent dragon's most powerful ability was to spit out its sea serpent dragon aura. Now that this aura was no longer effective against Night Sorrow, it was unrealistic for it to escape. However, when Night Sorrow was 10,000 miles away, the sea serpent dragon's scissor-like tail suddenly glowed and whipped fiercely. "You want to whip me? Dream on." Facing the sea serpent dragon's huge tail, Night Sorrow raised his samsara halberd and struck. The sea serpent dragon's tail shattered like glass, causing it to howl in pain in the water. "If it weren't for the blue phoenix armor, I might have been killed by you. Now go to hell." The sea serpent dragon's aura was no longer effective, and its tail had been shattered. It could not escape Night Sorrow's pursuit. Although Night Sorrow was the virtuous feather god, he would not show mercy to a monster that wanted to kill him. He gathered his divine essence and struck the sea serpent dragon's head with the forbidden spear. He wanted to penetrate its divine sea. "Lord, please spare me. I attacked you because I was loyal to someone." At this moment, the sea serpent dragon suddenly turned into a girl in green and knelt in front of Night Sorrow. "Loyal to someone? Is someone trying to harm me?" The girl in green had a round face with some baby fat. She did not look like a treacherous person. Night Sorrow withdrew his samsara halberd and interrupted the fatal attack. "It's not about harming Milord, it's about harming anyone who enters this formation." At this point, the chubby girl shook her head and said, "No, that's not right. It's not harm. It's to make all the cultivators who enter this array sleep for 10,000 years." "Then why did you attack me just now?" Night Sorrow's tone was a bit cold. Night Sorrow. "It's because you didn't fall asleep and entered the second part of the test that you were attacked. In fact, the sneak attack on you was augmented by Lord Divine Lord Jinhua. I don't have such strong offensive power. Given its strength, there was no way it would be able to cause the Azure Phoenix battle armor to drop a grade. Lord God 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 Lords is Lord. God God God. I is God. Is God Divine God God. God 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 God. God is God level is God God is God. Isn't it a little too hard to wait for you to leave after breaking through to the God King realm? But since it's Divine Lord Jinyuan's idea, I won't pursue the matter of the sneak attack." Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow sighed. Divine Lord Jinyuan had already died in battle. How could there be any possibility of him breaking through to the Divine King level? Thinking of this, he asked, "How many years have you been guarding this formation?" "There should be. I can't remember clearly, I can't count them." The sea serpent, who had transformed into a chubby girl, counted with her fingers and did not understand. She knelt and said, "Anyway, this cave abode exists. I've always been in this array formation. Get up and talk. It's quite pitiful to keep guarding here." Night Sorrow condensed his divine essence power and helped the sea serpent that had transformed into a young girl up. He said, "The key is that Sir Divine Lord has already fallen in the battle back then. Why don't you leave with me? If you wait here, you will never see him." Divine Lord Jinyuan had already perished. Night Sorrow did not wish to see the sea serpent, who was not very scheming, trapped in such an array formation forever. For any living being, waiting in such a dark formation was meaningless. But Sir Divine Lord is not dead. He's so powerful. He won't die. I'll always wait here for him. However, the sea serpent shook her head stubbornly when she heard Night Sorrow's words. She took a few steps back in disbelief. "All right, since you don't want to leave, you can cultivate here. If I see Divine Lord again, I'll ask him to come and talk to you." Seeing the sea serpent's firm attitude, Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. He had the power of merit and could tell that the sea serpent was not lying. He thought that whoever started the trouble should end it. If he saw Divine Lord Jinyuan's shadow again, he would ask him to come and talk to the sea serpent. Then Night Sorrow asked, "My friend is still sleeping soundly. Is there a way to wake her up quickly?" Night Sorrow did not want Yun Tianyi to sleep for tens of thousands of years. That would definitely affect the final battle for the cave abode. Yes. I'll put away the sea serpent's aura and she will wake up. In addition, here's a drop of my tear. Sir, you can drop it into your eye. This way, you will be able to see through all kinds of illusions in the future. The sea serpent put away the sea serpent's aura in the small world and handed a drop of sparkling tear to Night Sorrow. Sir, I can only produce 1 drop of my tear in a lifetime. This is a reward arranged by Sir Divine Lord. You deserve it. Since it's Sir Divine Lord's arrangement, I'll accept it. The sea serpent's tear had such an effect. It was definitely priceless. Night Sorrow was delighted. After all, he and Yuntiani would go deep into the cave abode and might encounter countless illusions. If they could see through all of them, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Sir, you can drop it directly into one eye without any side effects. When it reaches a certain level, not only will you be able to see through all illusions, you can even see through other people's unique skills and imitate them directly. The sea serpent explained slowly with a hint of pride in her tone. If what she said was true, then the value of the sea serpent's tear was too great. How do I level it up? The sea serpent's words made Night Sorrow's heart skip a beat. What he lacked the most now was various unique skills. If he could really see through other people's exquisite unique skills, it would be too heaven-defying. When Sir cultivates, the sea serpent's eye will automatically absorb divine essence and level up. However, with Sir's current realm, even if the sea serpent's eye is raised to a certain level, you can only see through the feather god's unique skills, the round-faced sea serpent explained seriously. No matter what, thank you. This is a divine soul recovery pill. Take it quickly. I'm sorry for injuring you just now. The backlash of the 7-star violent alcade came. Night Sorrow took 2 divine soul recovery pills and handed 2 to the sea serpent. The effect of the sea serpent's tear was really heaven-defying. He was very grateful. However, now that he couldn't use his spatial Dharma artifact, he couldn't think of anything to give in return. He could only remember it silently. Thank you, sir. The sea serpent, who had taken 2 divine soul recovery pills, smiled sweetly at Night Sorrow. When she smiled, her face became even rounder. Chapter 2497. The Divine Emperor gave me the name Xin Yuan. Xin Yuan replied with a smile. My lord, your friend has woken up. I'll go back to the bottom of the sea to cultivate. Shen Yuan bowed to Night Sorrow and turned back into the sea serpent, swimming to the bottom of the sea. Okay, go ahead. I'll come back to see you. Night Sorrow waved to Xin Yuan and rose to the surface of the sea, returning to Yun Tianyi. At this time, Yun Tianyi had just woken up. There was a trace of confusion in her eyes, as if she had forgotten how she came here. The sea serpent's aura is gone. Hurry up and recover. We'll continue later. Night Sorrow said to Yun Tianyi. Then he dripped the sea serpent's tear into his left eye and slowly absorbed it. After absorbing the sea serpent's tear, Night Sorrow soon saw the center of the illusory formation and left with Yun Tianyi. What's going on there? After leaving the illusory formation, Yun Tianyi's aura had returned to normal, but she had no idea what was going on. There was the sea serpent's aura in that formation. That's why you fell asleep. But I've broken it. Night Sorrow didn't say Xin Yuan. After saying that, he suddenly grabbed Yun Tianyi and said, Stop. Let's go another way. There was a maze-like illusory formation in front of them. With the help of the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow avoided it and didn't walk in. However, just as they were about to go around it, a cold voice sounded. Yun Tianyi, it's really you. It turned out to be Ji Hao, Leng Ningxin, and Shangguan Hai, who had just come out of the illusory formation. When Shangguan Hai saw Yun Tianyi and Yi Shang, he immediately shouted sinisterly. His entire body exuded an intense killing intent. Not only Shangguan Hai, but also Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin. Obviously, they wanted to kill Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi without any hesitation. They were very confident in their strength, so they didn't bother to hide it. Shangguan Hai, it's you. Upon seeing Shangguan Hai, Yun Tianyi's face immediately turned ugly. Her father had been suppressed by the Shangguan family of Langqi Mountain. Yun Tianyi hated everyone in the Shangguan family to the bone. However, their strength had always been about the same. If not, Yun Tianyi would have thought of a way to kill him long ago. Yun Tianyi, oh Yun Tianyi, How arrogant are you to enter the genuine Divine Lord's abode with a piece of trash at the mid-level Divine Feather realm? Do you think it's so easy to barge into an invincible Divine Lord's cave abode? Shangguan Hai, who was sizing up Night Sorrow, found that he was a mid-level feather god, and immediately laughed at him. Hee, if he's trash, then you're worse than a pig or a dog. You're trash with eyes but no sight. Yun Tianyi couldn't help but laugh at Shangguan Hai, who was ranked 97th on the God of Feathers list, when he ridiculed Night Sorrow, who was ranked at least in the top 30. Yun Tianyi, you're courting death. This is the genuine Divine Lord's cave abode, not a sect. No one can protect you. Shangguan Hai, who had been ridiculed, immediately had a murderous look on his face. At this time, Ji Hao, who was standing to the side, said impatiently, Shangguan Hai, what nonsense are you talking about? Those who stand in our way must die. Hurry up and do it. You go and kill that mid-level feather god. But Shangguan Hai immediately took out a simple saber and slashed at Night Sorrow fiercely. You're not an invincible feather god, but you dare to come here to try your luck. I really don't know how you got here. Now go to hell. I really don't know how you survived until now with your eyesight. Night Sorrow didn't dodge Shangguan Hai's attack at all. He activated the Essence Smoke and Star's mighty body and directly slapped out with his palm. Shangguan Hai's strength was about the same as Yun Tianyi's. They were no match for each other at all. Night Sorrow didn't bother to talk nonsense with such an opponent. He just slapped him to death. And, you're really courting. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't dodge at all, Shangguan Hai wanted to shout that he was courting death. However, before he could say the word, he was slapped into ashes, and his soul was destroyed. Night Sorrow didn't like Wu Xin and the people from Langqi Mountain at all. He didn't show any mercy at all. At this time, Leng Ningxin was attacking Yun Tianyi. She was much stronger than Yun Tianyi, so she suppressed her in an instant. Yun Tianyi, who was attacked by Leng Ningxin continuously, couldn't resist Leng Ningxin's ice seal at all. Her movements became very slow, as if she was moving in slow motion. Ji Hao was definitely a ruthless person. When Leng Ningxin restrained Yun Tianyi, who had a strong body, immediately launched a sneak attack, trying to smash Yun Tianyi's head. However, Night Sorrow had already killed Shangguan Hai. He turned around to help and slapped Ji Hao away with the strength of his body. What? You're so strong. Where's Shangguan Hai? Is he dead? Ji Hao, who was very confident in the strength of his body, was sent flying by Yi Shang's slap. He immediately revealed a shocked expression. He didn't realize that Shangguan Hai had been killed until then. His surprise immediately turned into shock. Ji Hao didn't expect that a middle-level god of feathers could be so powerful. He killed Shangguan Hai, who was on the God of Feathers list, with one move. Also, his body was stronger than his. He asked in a cold voice, "Who are you?" "The one who's going to kill you." They were already fighting, and Ji Hao wanted to kill Yun Tianyi. Night Sorrow wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with him. He took the Samsara halberd from his back and directly attacked. With the help of the vanishing shadow void escape, the attack was so fast that Ji Hao couldn't dodge it. Ningxin, help me. Ji Hao immediately sensed the aura of death from Night Sorrow's attack. He took out a long sword and shouted for help. 1,000 miles of ice. In fact, Leng Ningxin had been paying attention to the situation even before Ji Hao said anything. She immediately performed her unique skill and used her god realm to slow down Night Sorrow. In an instant, the surrounding air seemed to be frozen. Yun Tianyi was almost frozen into an ice sculpture. He wanted to help, but he couldn't, which made him very unhappy. Because this time, he had become a spectator again. He was going to be a hindrance. Yun Tianyi's pride was hurt, but Night Sorrow's action was only slightly delayed. Because he had activated the power of merit. With the help of the power of merit, Night Sorrow's god realm directly broke through Leng Ningxin's suppression. The Samsara halberd pierced toward Ji Hao's dantian without any hindrance. Faced with Night Sorrow's attack, Ji Hao felt like he was locked on. He couldn't dodge at all, so he could only brace himself and use his long sword to block the attack. With a boom, Ji Hao was sent flying. Ji Hao's strength was much weaker than Yan Jianan's. Moreover, Yan Jianan could block some of Night Sorrow's attacks because of the Crimson Lotus. Naturally, he couldn't block them. Everlasting Hail. Just then, Leng Ningxin's aura suddenly changed. It became several times stronger as she performed another unique skill. Countless icy raindrops immediately appeared in the sky. Like transparent blades of ice, they continuously stabbed towards Yi Sorrow. How dare you call yourself everlasting? Faced with the endless hail, Night Sorrow couldn't chase after Ji Hao anymore. He raised the Samsara halberd and performed Inferno Demon Subduing. With the support of his powerful strength, Inferno Demon Subduing turned into a fire phoenix and melted all the hail in an instant. Damn it, he's so strong. Leng Ningxin's expression was cold. She didn't expect Night Sorrow to be so strong. Knowing that she had no chance of winning in a one-on-one fight, she transmitted her voice to Ji Hao, run or fight. I'm going to kill him. Ji Hao, who was sent flying by Night Sorrow, replied unwillingly. All right, then let's perform a joint attack. Although Leng Ningxin was cold and heartless, she was Ji Hao's cultivation partner. They had been together for many years. Chapter 2498. Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin had great teamwork and were very powerful. They had once used this joint attack to kill the top 30 fighters on the God of Feathers list. Not many people knew about this, so Night Sorrow didn't know about it. Night Sorrow didn't kill Leng Ningxin when he had the upper hand. Instead, he went to Yun Tianyi and helped him get rid of Leng Ningxin's ice. Yun Tianyi's qi, blood, and divine origin energy were all frozen. It took him a while to recover. This battle was a big blow to him. He realized the real gap between him and the fighters on the God of Feathers list. Brother Yi, I've dragged you down again in this battle. Luckily you're strong enough. Otherwise, we would have been killed. Yun Tianyi, whose face was gradually returning to normal, cupped his hands at Night Sorrow and thanked him. I don't think they're that simple. Leave the battle and watch from the sidelines. If there's a chance, help them immediately. Night Sorrow kept an eye on Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin while he was treating Yun Tianyi. He didn't let his guard down. Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin gathered together while Night Sorrow was treating Yun Tianyi. After communicating for a while, the two of them cooperated and attacked Night Sorrow together. You're an elite among the God of Feathers if you can force us to use our joint attack. But you're going to die today. Ji Hao, who had been suppressed in the battle, was very frustrated. He shouted while flying. Are they going to fight me in close combat? Good timing. Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin didn't use any secret techniques. Instead, they flew toward Night Sorrow, which surprised him. It was Night Sorrow's first time fighting someone in close combat after he left the Endless Bone Realm. Facing the two menacing opponents, he reactivated the Essence Qi smoke signal and the star's mighty body, as well as the power of merits. His figure flashed as he used the Vanishing Shadow escape technique to confront them. Although Yi Shang's body was currently at the intermediate Feather God level, his body had absorbed a large amount of Genesis essence and was no weaker than an ordinary lower high god. He naturally did not fear two Feather God level opponents. He, who did not have many absolute skills, liked close combat very much. It seems that you are very confident in the strength of your body. Seeing Night Sorrow approaching, Ji Hao laughed maniacally and transmitted a message to Leng Ningxin. Let's begin. Okay, same as last time. Leng Ningxin nodded and immediately used an even more powerful ice element technique to freeze the surrounding space as soon as she got close to Yishang. At the same time, Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin took out their swords and performed their joint attack. Frost Bamboo Rain Sword. Between the heavens and the earth, countless rays of chilling sword qi were released. These sword qis were controlled by Leng Ningxin. They cut through the air and attacked Night Sorrow continuously. This was much more powerful than her infinite frost rain. Faced with so many sword qi in this almost frozen space, Night Sorrow temporarily stopped in his tracks. He stood in the air and used Inferno Demon Subduing to resist the rain of sword qi. The Inferno Demon Subduing's flames were very hot and gradually melted the frozen space. However, this time, it did not completely incinerate the sword cheese controlled by Leng Ningxin. The sword cheese controlled by Leng Ningxin were still draining Night Sorrow's energy. At this moment, Ji Hao, whose aura and physical strength had obviously improved greatly, put away his sword and took the opportunity to approach Night Sorrow and attack him crazily. How did the two of them increase their strength by several times at the same time? At this moment, Ji Hao's physical strength had increased by more than 10 times compared to before. On the other side, Leng Ningxin, who was using her unique ice skills and frost bamboo rain sword cheese to interfere with the fight, her aura also increased greatly. Night Sorrow felt more pressure fighting the two of them under such circumstances than when he faced Yan Jianen. This made him curious. He could not figure out how the two of them did it. Although he could not figure it out and felt the pressure, Night Sorrow was not completely at a disadvantage. While he was fighting Ji Hao, he found the right opportunity to attack Leng Ningxin. Samsara Strike. However, faced with the reincarnation spear, which was almost unavoidable, Leng Ningxin appeared next to Ji Hao with a telepathic thought. She successfully used this teleportation to dodge the attack. This was the first time Night Sorrow's Samsara halberd missed its target in the God realm, which surprised him. If that attack had hit Leng Ningxin, she would have been severely injured. In that case, Night Sorrow would have been able to deal with the encirclement. Die! After dodging Night Sorrow's attack, Leng Ningxin immediately left Ji Hao's side. Ji Hao, on the other hand, attacked Night Sorrow again. At this moment, Night Sorrow had used Essence Smoke, Star's dominating body, and Power of Merit to gain a slight advantage. However, he could not defeat Ji Hao immediately because every time he used a killer move, Ji Hao would teleport to Leng Ningxin's side. The two of them could teleport to each other's side at will, which was naturally faster than Night Sorrow's attacks. This is troublesome. How did they do it? Night Sorrow's Vanishing Shadow Void release was powerful, but it was not as powerful as Ji Hao's and Leng Ningxin's teleportation, which made him feel powerless. Every time he used a killer move, it was as if he was hitting cotton. However, although the Blue Phoenix armor had been damaged by Shen Yuan's dragon tail, it still had the defensive power of a lower great god. With the armor and his own amazing defensive power, Night Sorrow was not injured. He did not use 7-star Rampage unless he was in a desperate situation. During the battle, he had been carefully observing Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin's cooperation and analyzing how they worked together. However, he did not learn anything. Damn it! When did such a monster appear in the Heartless Realm? Ji Hao, who was fighting Night Sorrow, was actually more uncomfortable than Night Sorrow. It was the first time he had met a feather god whose body was stronger than his. At this point, Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin had already thought of retreating. After all, there was nothing good around them. This battle was purely a battle of wills. They did not want to use more powerful life-saving methods. At this moment, Night Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. He noticed that his left eye was absorbing divine origin force on its own. He immediately remembered what Shen Yuan had said. Thinking of the Mirage Dragon's eye, Night Sorrow immediately cooperated with his left eye to absorb the divine origin force even faster. Soon, Night Sorrow's eye glowed. He saw that there was an invisible line between Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin. It must be this line that connects Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin. After analyzing the situation, Night Sorrow continued to attack Ji Hao while sending a message to Yun Tianyi. Cooperate with me later. Attack the spot between Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin. I will use my most powerful technique. Suddenly receiving Night Sorrow's message, Yun Tianyi, who had been watching on the sidelines, immediately perked up. However, he did not understand why Night Sorrow wanted him to attack the void. Now is the time. Attack now. Don't use your most powerful technique. Just be quick. Night Sorrow, who was fighting Ji Hao, suddenly gave the order. Chapter 2499. Under Night Sorrow's command, Yun Tianyi slashed at the line between Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin as if she had the eyes of a mirage dragon. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin were trying to figure out a way to escape. They didn't expect Yun Tianyi to slash at the line between them. In an instant, the line between them was cut off by Yun Tianyi's sword qi. Before Night Sorrow could attack again, Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. The frost bamboo rain swords in the air were all shattered in an instant. The two of them had obviously suffered a fierce backlash. Forbidden Spear. At this moment, Night Sorrow found an opportunity to condense his divine essence energy and shoot a forbidden spear at Ji Hao. The spear was so powerful that it shook the void. Husband, use your life-saving talisman. Lung Ningxin shouted at the critical moment. She was afraid that Ji Hao wouldn't be willing to use their most powerful talisman. Go to hell. However, she had underestimated Ji Hao's determination. In the face of a life-and-death situation, Ji Hao didn't hesitate at all. He used his half-step Divine Lord talisman and attacked Night Sorrow. What a powerful talisman! This is the full power attack of a half-step Divine Lord. A half-step Divine Lord's attack was equivalent to a half-step Divine Lord's ultimate technique. It was different from a body-refining Divine Lord's attack. After the talisman appeared, it immediately locked onto Night Sorrow, making him feel a chill down his spine. That was Night Sorrow's only thought. He could feel that if he was hit by the talisman, he would lose half his life even if he didn't die. It would take years for him to recover. You want to run? Do you think you can? The full power attack of a half-step Divine Lord isn't something a mid-level Divine Feather God like you can dodge. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate at all. He activated the 7-star Berserk light-shaking art, adjusting his body to its peak condition in order to dodge this attack. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin both smiled cruelly when they saw Yishang running away like a madman. In their opinion, although they had used a life-saving talisman, killing a strong enemy was still beneficial for their trip to the cave. What they didn't know was that there were far more invincible feather gods than they had imagined. Moreover, it wasn't just one or two. Brother Yi, be careful. Seeing Night Sorrow crazily flee, Yun Tianyi felt his heart skip a beat. The aura of a half-step Divine Lord's all-out attack was so great that it caused his mind to tremble. While reminding Night Sorrow, Yun Tianyi didn't hesitate at all. She used a secret technique that had a huge backlash and fled the scene. There was no doubt that she would die if she faced Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin alone. She had no choice but to flee. Damn it! That piece of trash Yun Tianyi got away. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, who had been watching Night Sorrow, realized that Yun Tianyi had used a secret technique to escape. It was already too late for them to chase after her. Ji Hao cursed angrily. Lung Ningxin smiled coldly and said, "You said it yourself. He's just a piece of trash. It doesn't matter whether he escapes or not. Let's just watch the show." That's true. Even if he meets Yun Tianyi 200 times, he won't be able to defeat her. Ji Hao nodded and continued watching the divine talisman chase after Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, who had activated the 7-star Berserk light-shaking art, used the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape art to escape at an astonishing speed. However, there were countless arrays nearby. Although he had the help of the Mirage Dragon's Eye, his speed was still affected. He couldn't maintain his top speed all the time. Soon, the divine talisman with a terrifying aura was closing in on him. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, who were watching from afar, laughed out loud. They were looking forward to seeing Night Sorrow being destroyed by the divine talisman. I can't take it head-on. Why don't I hide in the array set up by the Divine Lord and use the array to consume some of the divine talisman's power? Night Sorrow, who was running for his life, realized that he couldn't escape. Suddenly an idea came to him. He used the Mirage Dragon's Eye to find a path and went into the maze that Ji Hao and the others had just come out of. Boom! With a loud sound, the divine talisman heavily bombarded the array. It blasted a huge hole in the labyrinth formation that had astonishing defensive power. The divine talisman, which had lost most of its power, continued to chase after Night Sorrow, but it wasn't as powerful as before. After using the 7-star violent light-shaking art, Night Sorrow adjusted himself to his strongest state. He no longer tried to dodge. He used the Samsara halberd and unleashed the Samsara strike. slamming it against the divine talisman. In an instant, the divine talisman was destroyed. Night Sorrow and the Samsara halberd didn't suffer much damage. The maze had a huge hole. Night Sorrow flew out of the maze to seek revenge on Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin. Use your secret techniques. Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin, who hadn't killed Night Sorrow even after using their trump cards, were scared out of their wits when they saw that Night Sorrow was fine. They didn't dare to stay any longer and used their secret techniques to escape. You're lucky. I'll kill you the next time I see you. With the help of the sea serpent eye, Night Sorrow could catch up with Ji Hao and Leng Ningxin. However, he found that Yun Tianyi was in a bad condition and immediately chased after her. The unlucky Yun Tianyi was teleported into the territory of a group of bear-shaped skeletal puppets. These puppets were all low-level high gods. Yun Tianyi had used her secret technique and suffered a great backlash. She couldn't resist at all. Fortunately, Night Sorrow had hurried over at this moment. Taking advantage of the fact that the 7-star berserk had yet to dissipate, he unleashed his might and smashed all of the skeletal puppets to death. Brother Yi, it's you who saved me again. I don't know what to say. I'll follow you in the future. If it weren't for Night Sorrow, Yun Tianyi would have been killed in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. As an expert on the Feather God list, he wasn't used to this kind of situation. Night Sorrow patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "You don't have to follow me. Protect Haibei City well in the future." Brother Yi, don't worry. I, Yun Tianyi, am rooted in Haibei City. Even if I die in battle, I won't abandon this city. One day, I'll restore it to its former glory. After the rise of the divine King Wuxin, Haibei City had been suppressed very badly. This caused everyone in the Dark Alliance to hold their breaths, especially Yun Tianyi, whose father was suppressed by Langqi Mountain. I believe in you. You'll do it sooner or later. This is a divine soul recovery pill. Take it quickly and recover. After Yun Tianyi suffered a backlash, Night Sorrow, who had taken 2 divine soul recovery pills, handed one to him to help him recover quickly. Thank you, Brother Yi. By the way, I haven't asked about your background. Where are you from, Brother Yi? Yun Tianyi asked as the two of them were recovering and weren't in a hurry. At this point he had gone through life and death with Night Sorrow. He wasn't as distant as before, so he blurted out these words. I'm from the lower realm. I just ascended to the God realm not long ago. The place where I ascended was near Haibei City. I haven't been to other areas yet. Night Sorrow didn't hold back and slowly revealed his background. You're an ascender. Yun Tianyi was surprised to hear Night Sorrow's words. He said, no wonder Brother Yi has the power of virtue protecting him. It seems like he's from the lower realm. Are there other ascenders in the God realm? Night Sorrow, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground and adjusting his state, asked curiously. Chapter 2500. Yes, of course. Ascenders who come to the God realm usually rise very quickly, and many of them make a name for themselves. The strongest person in the God realm now, Sovereign Tianyi, is from the lower realm. After saying this, Yun Tianyi smiled and said, maybe Brother Yi can also become a sovereign in the future. When that happens, I, Yun Tianyi, can do whatever I want in the God realm. The sovereign position? I hope so. It was a little far from that level, but Night Sorrow's mind was very firm, and he felt that nothing was impossible. He asked, can you introduce me to the sovereigns of the God realm? Of course. While recovering, Yun Tianyi said, currently, there are a total of 7 known sovereigns in the God realm. They are Sovereign Tianyi, Sovereign Clear Sound, Sovereign Buddha, Sovereign Illustrious, Sovereign Dark Moon, Sovereign All Heaven, and 7 Star. Now, most of the God realm is under their control. As for whether there are other sovereigns, I'm not sure. These sovereigns have varying reputations. After that, Yun Tianyi talked about the reputations of the 7 sovereigns, so that Night Sorrow had a certain understanding. As for the Divine King, who was under the 7 sovereigns, Yun Tianyi couldn't be familiar with him, so he didn't mention this matter. Now that he knew that Night Sorrow was an ascender, he had no background at all. Yun Tianyi then talked about some famous sects in the god realm. The strongest person in some sects was the divine king, and some were even taken care of by the sovereigns. He suggested that Night Sorrow join such a powerful sect, make a name for himself, and be taken care of by the sect. After all, the god realm was very big, and there were many strong people. If one didn't have a background, it wouldn't be easy even if they were talented. I will seriously consider this matter. Hearing Yun Tianyi's suggestion, Night Sorrow nodded seriously. For someone like him who didn't have a background, this might be the best choice. Otherwise, if he offended the Divine Lord or the Divine King, he could easily be killed. Sects were different from God's domain. Night Sorrow could accept joining a sect and learning from a master. However, joining God's domain and becoming someone's subordinate was something he would never consider. If he were to join a sect, he would be able to receive the care of experts and find a peaceful place for his family. This was something he did not have the ability to do. If Brother Yi doesn't mind, I can recommend you to join my. As Yun Tianyi spoke up to this point, she suddenly exclaimed in surprise and said, I seem to feel something calling out to me. My heart is throbbing non-stop. Could it be a demonic spell? Night Sorrow, who had completely recovered, asked doubtfully. It doesn't look like it. I feel like my blood is surging, as if I'm being summoned by something familiar. Yun Tianyi got up. Guided by her inner feelings, she kept walking forward. Be careful. Night Sorrow, who was following behind Yun Tianyi, used the sea serpent's eye to observe the path he was taking. The two of them traveled more than 1,500 kilometers together and killed 2 lower-level high god skeletal puppets. I can feel it. The thing that led me here is in the grave. After traveling another 250 kilometers, Yun Tianyi finally stopped. In front of him was a very inconspicuous grave. The aura in the grave is very peaceful. There's no danger. It should be an opportunity. Night Sorrow observed with the sea serpent's eye and didn't sense any dangerous aura. Since it's an opportunity, I'll give it to Brother Yi. It's also a way to repay you for saving my life. Yun Tianyi's heart kept throbbing, but she didn't make a move. She was prepared to give the opportunity to Night Sorrow. In response, Night Sorrow smiled and refused. This belongs to you. I won't steal a friend's opportunity. Hearing this, Yun Tianyi wanted to say something, but a nearly transparent soul suddenly floated out of the grave. This soul looked somewhat similar to Yun Tianyi, but it had a beard and looked much calmer. Your grandpa? Seeing this soul, Yun Tianyi's voice immediately trembled. Yun Changhe had gone missing when Yun Tianyi was very young. The Yun family thought that he had been subdued by someone. They didn't expect him to appear here, and he was already in a soul state. Obviously, he had fallen. Tianyi, it's me. Yun Changhe's soul shadow revealed a smile. He handed him a drop of crystal-clear blood essence and said, This is the blood essence of our Yun family. It came from the Divine King. Now, Grandpa will give it to you. From now on, you're the new patriarch of the Yun family. Grandpa, how did you fall here? How can I save you? Yun Tianyi, who didn't reach out to take the blood essence, knelt on the ground and asked in a trembling voice. Back then, when Grandpa had just broken through to the invincible divine feather realm, I was chased by people from Langqi Mountain. By chance, I escaped here. I didn't expect to fall here. Grandpa's soul wasn't destroyed to be resurrected, but to stay here and wait for the descendants of our Yun family. Now that I've given you the blood essence, Grandpa can die in peace. Yun Changhe's soul phantom was very weak and was about to dissipate. It wasn't that he didn't want to be resurrected, but there was no time to wait for a turn of events. Child, tell Grandpa about your family's situation. Yun Tianyi was a little sad. Yun Changhe said with a smile. He wanted to hear about his family's situation in his last moments. Grandpa, Yun Tianyi, who knew that it was impossible to save Yun Changhe, couldn't help but cry. Choking with sobs, she told Grandpa about the current situation of the Yun family. She swore, Grandpa, don't worry. I'll definitely save Father. Good child, Grandpa knows that you're filial. However, with our Yun family's ability, going against the divine King Wuxin is undoubtedly a dead end. Yun Changhe sighed and said, Grandpa suggests that you take the Yun family out of Haibei City, out of the Wuxin divine domain, and even out of the territory ruled by the Dark Moon. Find another way to develop. Grandpa, I can move my family out of the Wuxin divine domain, but I'll never leave. If it wasn't for Wuxin's suppression, Yun Changhe wouldn't have fallen in the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave, and his father wouldn't have been suppressed. Yun Tianyi's hatred for Wuxin had become his motivation to become stronger. If that's the case, you should absorb the blood essence well and quickly break through to the High God realm, or even the Divine Lord realm. Yun Changhe wanted to continue to persuade and say a few words to Night Sorrow, but his soul phantom couldn't hold on any longer. After saying that, it completely disappeared. Seeing her grandfather's soul disappearing before her eyes, Yun Tianyi, who was holding the blood essence in her hand, burst into tears. My condolences. If you don't want the Yun family to live in Wuxin's shadow forever, the only thing you need to do is to become stronger, so strong that you can go against Wuxin. Yun Tianyi cried very sadly. Night Sorrow, who also cherished his family, could empathize with her. After a moment of silence, he spoke to persuade her. I must quickly become stronger and not let my family continue to be oppressed. Wuxin, I'll definitely kill you with my own hands. Hearing the persuasion, Yun Tianyi wiped her tears and sat on the ground, absorbing the Divine King's blood essence in her palm. Don't do it here, Night Sorrow wanted to stop her, but it was too late. Chapter 2501. Soon, Yun Tianyi, who had absorbed the Divine King's blood essence, emitted a thick blood aura. This was clearly too rash. Because the blood aura was too exuberant, the aura that soared into the sky could not be concealed at all. In an instant, the entire plain was alarmed. Not long after, a group of cultivators was attracted. It was Qing Qingzi, Ming Ju, and Huang Lai and Yun Zangping, who were ranked 41st and 48th respectively. They had just come out of a trapping array when they immediately discovered the blood aura that soared into the sky. It seems like someone is absorbing the blood essence. Let's hurry over and take a look. If the opponent isn't strong, we'll directly snatch it. Standing thousands of miles away, Huang Lai noticed the scene of blood light soaring into the sky and brought the others closer. When they were still 1,500 miles away, they saw Yun Tianyi absorbing the blood essence, and only Night Sorrow was protecting her. Huang Lai immediately said excitedly, This is the Divine King's blood essence. If we can snatch it, there is hope for the future Divine King. Let's go. To the invincible Feather God, there were not many things that could interest him. The Divine King's blood essence was clearly one of them. Young Sect Master, don't be rash. Think about it, when we were at the top of the mountain just now, we saw the two of them being chased by Yan Jianan and the others. Now that they are here intact, it proves that their strength is very likely not inferior to Yan Jianan and the others. Yun Tianyi's strength is not considered strong, which means that Night Sorrow is definitely not easy to deal with. Seeing that Huang Lai was about to make a move, Qing Qingzi hurriedly advised. Hearing this, Huang Lai stopped and nodded. There is indeed such a possibility. Qing Qingzi continued, Moreover, Night Sorrow is the virtuous Feather God. If the person who deals with him succeeds, it will be good as they will obtain his providence. If they don't succeed, they will be plagued with bad luck. It is not something that ordinary cultivators can withstand. Zangping, what do you think? Huang Lai felt that Qing Qingzi's words made sense. He looked at Yun Zangping, wanting to ask him what he meant. In fact, the Divine King's blood essence was too tempting for him. He was really unwilling to give it up. If we were outside, I would choose to make a move. However, there were too many variables in the Divine Lord Zhenyuan's cave dwelling. Rather than snatching it, it was better to help them. Night Sorrow is the Feather God of merit. If you help him, you might get some good luck. Yun Zangping pondered for a moment and voiced his opinion. His strength was about the same as Huang Lai's, but he had always been willing to be a supporting character. However, the two of them had worked together for many years, and most of the time, he was the one who came up with the ideas. That does make sense. The virtuous feather god is indeed very strange. Most people who oppose him don't have a good ending. Mingju, who had been silent all this while, chimed in. That's right. If we act rashly, I'm afraid the gains will not make up for the losses. At this moment, Qin Mingzi recalled the conflict between Night Sorrow and the Jubao Pavilion. He immediately understood that Night Sorrow definitely hadn't lowered his head to Feng Xiaoyun. Since that's what you all think, let's go over and help. At the very least, I won't be his enemy in the cave. Huang Lai, who listened to everyone's opinion, nodded. While they were discussing this matter, Yun Tianyi's soaring blood qi had already attracted 3 skeleton puppets. These skeletons were quickly killed by Night Sorrow. Facing these skeletons, Night Sorrow was extremely fierce. He didn't want to drag things out and affect Yun Tianyi negatively. Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't hold back and easily killed these skeletons, Huang Lai and the others were even more certain of their thoughts. When they were close to Qianli, Qin Mingzi transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. Master Night Sorrow, we're here to help. We want to form good karma. If you want to form good karma, stop immediately. Seeing that Huang Lai, Yun Zhengping, and the others were getting closer and closer, Night Sorrow immediately stopped them. All right, we'll help you clean up the skeletons attracted by Yun Tianyi outside. If there are cultivators coveting it, we won't stand by and do nothing. Qin Mingzi, who received Huang Lai's instructions, continued to communicate with Night Sorrow. If you can do as you say, I'll be very grateful. The skeleton puppets seemed to be very sensitive to the blood qi and kept rushing over. If there were people helping, Night Sorrow's pressure would be reduced by a lot. After he replied, he continued to fight the skeleton puppets that surrounded him. As time passed, more and more skeleton puppets were attracted by the blood qi. Although Night Sorrow was powerful, he couldn't handle it all. Now's the time. Help. Huang Lai and the others, who had waited for an opportunity, fought with the skeleton puppets outside, immediately alleviating the pressure on Night Sorrow. During the battle, they stayed outside and didn't get close to Yun Tianyi. After fighting fiercely with the skeleton puppets for a while, Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, and Yun Zhengping gradually formed a tacit understanding. They formed a triangle and surrounded Yun Tianyi. Mingju and Qin Mingzi supported them. They were still a bit weak. The situation was stabilized for the time being. Occasionally, an upper god skeleton puppet would appear, and Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, and the others would work together to kill it. Yun Tianyi's blood qi became denser and denser. He kept absorbing the Divine King's blood, making his aura stronger and stronger. There was no doubt that when he finished absorbing the blood qi, his strength would increase qualitatively. At the same time, the Divine King's blood qi that was being absorbed shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yun Tianyi should be able to finish absorbing it soon. Thank you so much for this time. Night Sorrow, who was taking a short breather, saw the Divine King's blood qi being absorbed quickly and expressed his gratitude. This time, without Huang Lai and the others' help, he might not have been able to hold on. After that, the number of skeletons attracted by the blood qi decreased, and their strength increased. However, even if there were upper god skeletons, Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, and the others could still work together to kill them, so there wasn't much pressure on them. At this time, Yun Tianyi's absorption was coming to an end. There was only a tiny bit of the Divine King's blood qi left. He estimated that in less than 2 hours he would finish absorbing it. But at this time, Yishang saw a half-step Divine Lord Bone ape in the distance, shaking the heavens as it hurried over. This skeleton ape was very large, at least 1,000 feet tall. With every step it took, the ground would tremble, intimidating the other skeleton puppets so much that they didn't dare to move. It was clear that it was the absolute king of this area. A half-step Divine Lord skeleton ape. What do we do? It's not something we can kill. Seeing the half-step Divine Lord skeleton ape approach step by step, Huang Lai and the others sucked in a cold breath. They didn't have any experience facing a half-step Divine Lord, and they were already panicking before the battle even began. Everyone, I will tie down this skeleton ape. Help me look after Yun Tianyi. If the situation turns bad, you can take the initiative to run away. No matter what, I, Night Sorrow, will remember today's matter. The situation was critical. The good news was that after the half-step Divine Lord skeleton ape appeared, the other skeleton puppets didn't dare to move. Moreover, with Yun Tianyi absorbed here, it was meaningless for Huang Lai and the others to try and snatch it away. However, it was unrealistic for Huang Lai and the others to face the half-step Divine Lord skeleton ape. It was already good enough that they were willing to help. It was impossible for them to risk their lives. Chapter 2502. The half-step godlords that Night Sorrow had faced in the past were all lacking in strength. Whether it was the dark creatures in the darkness domain or the soul-devouring beast in the cave abode, they all had significant flaws. Although the bone ape in front of him was a skeleton puppet, it was a true half-step godlord. Whether it was the power of its soul or divine origin energy, it had been cultivated to perfection and was very strong. Facing such an opponent, Night Sorrow immediately activated Essence Chi Smoke, Star's hegemonic body, and used Virtue Power and 7-star Berserk Alcade. He adjusted himself to his best state and charged forward. He had the Sea Serpent Eye and could see through some of the surrounding arrays. He was prepared to use the arrays to do something. Raging Flames subdues demons. Night Sorrow, who had soared into the air, was still far away from the bone ape when he used Raging Flames subdues demons to block its path and prevent it from charging at Yun Tianyi. Awoo! The indomitable bone ape was immediately enraged when it was blocked by the vigorous flames. It roared at the sky and chased after Night Sorrow. What strength! Night Sorrow, who had lured the bone ape away, was chased by it. He immediately felt as if his soul was being locked on. The bone ape's soul was clearly at the half-step godlord level. It was not something that he could fight against. He definitely could not escape if he tried to escape like this. Night Sorrow dove into an array set up by godlord Xinyuan to block the bone ape's attack, just like when he faced the half-step godlord Divine Talisman. Boom! The bone ape, who had caught up, swung the giant spiked club in its hand and slammed it into the array. The spiked club was surrounded by a blue light. This was the bone ape's divine origin energy. When it hit the array's barrier, it immediately pierced through it. After piercing through the array's barrier, the spiked club went straight for Night Sorrow. What a powerful aura! Night Sorrow wanted to take this attack head-on, but he gave up on this idea for the sake of the overall situation. He used the Void Vanishing Shadow to quickly dodge this attack. Human Cultivator. Not only did the bone ape fail to hit Night Sorrow, but it also suffered a backlash from the formation. It immediately flew into a rage and shouted the word, "Die." Although it was a puppet, it had a certain level of intelligence and was different from the other puppets in the cave. At the same time, it spat out a mouthful of icy blue flames, which covered the entire formation. Night Sorrow, who was in the middle of the formation, had no way of escaping the blue flames that spread for thousands of miles. He was directly burned. However, the Azure Phoenix battle armor was refined by Jing Yun. It was innately impervious to flames. In fact, it could even absorb the flames to heal the injuries caused by the Mirage Sphere. Roar! The bone ape's blue flames had been nurtured by absorbing the essence of the cave abode over several reincarnations. Not only did it not injure Night Sorrow, but it was also continuously absorbed by the blue phoenix battle armor. This made it even more furious. He leaped into the air and used his ultimate skill, Golden Ape Suppression. This move was an ultimate skill that the bone ape had mastered when it was alive. After it was refined into a puppet, it inherited it. After using it, its body emitted a blinding golden light. As this golden light spread out, it enveloped Night Sorrow along with its divine domain. Night Sorrow, who was suppressed by the bone ape's divine domain, could not circulate his divine yuan force smoothly. This feeling was very uncomfortable, as if he had fallen into a quagmire. Is this the strength of a true half-step divine lord? It is indeed difficult to deal with. The difference in strength between the two was huge. Their divine domains were not on the same level. After circulating his power of virtue, Night Sorrow felt slightly better. He guessed that this bone ape should be the limit of what he could face. If it was any stronger, his power of virtue would not be effective. After using its divine domain to envelop Night Sorrow, the bone ape suddenly jumped down from the sky and directly stomped on Night Sorrow's position. This move was obviously more powerful than the mace from before. Night Sorrow, who had just regained his freedom of movement, knew that he could not take it head-on. He used Vanishing Shadow Void Escape and hid in an illusory array set up by Divine Lord Jinyuan. Boom! Just as Night Sorrow hid in the illusory array, the bone ape, whose ferocious nature was completely unleashed, stomped down. The first stomp from the sky shattered the defense of the illusory array. The second stomp was aimed at Night Sorrow. Come on, Samsara Strike. The bone ape's attack was extremely ferocious. Although it looked like a golden body attack, it actually contained the suppression of a divine domain. Night Sorrow, who could not dodge in time, could only choose to take it head-on. He used the Samsara Halberd to strike the Samsara Strike into the sky. After being hit by the Samsara Strike, the bone ape's aura was slightly weakened. However, it did not stop and stomp down, causing the entire illusory array to sink more than 500 miles. With this stomp, Night Sorrow is likely to die. Our good karma can't be formed. Huang Lai, who was watching from afar, was unhappy when he saw Night Sorrow get stomped by the bone ape. He felt that it was a waste of energy. Furthermore, the current Yun Tianyi basically already finished absorbing the Divine King blood essence. There was no meaning in him snatching it either. Hence, he opened his mouth and said, "This half-step Divine Lord Realm Bone Ape strength is too strong. It's not what we can contend with. Everyone, hurry up and escape together with me." Okay, let's go straight to the Blue Stone Palace. This bone ape's next target is definitely Yun Tianyi. We should have a high chance of escaping. Let's go. Yun Songping immediately agreed. The bone ape was too ferocious. He did not want to stay for even a moment. Qing Mingzi and Mingju were also very afraid. They followed behind Huang Lai and Yun Songping and fled in the direction of the Blue Stone Palace. Just as Yun Songping had predicted, after the bone ape attacked Night Sorrow, it immediately turned back and rushed towards the place where Yun Tianyi was absorbing the Divine King's blood essence. The Divine King's blood essence was very attractive to the bone ape. If it could successfully snatch it away, it was very likely that it would rise to the Divine Lord realm. Yun Tianyi's blood energy surged. He was still absorbing the blood essence of his ancestor, the Divine King, but there was no one around him to protect him. The bone ape approached and grabbed at Yun Tianyi, wanting to swallow him along with the blood essence. "Bastard, how dare you covet the blood essence of the Divine King?" Scram. Just as the bone ape was about to grab Yun Tianyi, a phantom rushed out of his body and sent the bone ape flying with a palm strike. The bone ape, whose arm had been shattered by this palm strike, immediately fled in fright. Although the strength of the phantom that attacked it was at the Divine Lord realm, its aura was indeed at the Divine King realm. The bone ape did not dare to face it. At this moment, Yun Tianyi slowly opened his eyes. Seeing the phantom in front of him, he immediately asked in shock, "You are the ancestor, the Divine King of the Cloud Wilderness?" However, we can talk about this later. The attack just now drained me too much. I need to recover. The imposing phantom nodded and pointed at the place where Night Sorrow was stepped on by the bone ape. "The people of the Yun clan need to repay kindness. Just now, your friend took a hit from the half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape in order to save you. We don't know if he's dead or alive. Quickly go and find him." With that, he flew back into Yun Tianyi's body. Clearly, he was different from Yun Changhe. He was not at the end of his life yet. "Brother Yi, nothing must happen to you." Chapter 2503. However, when Yun Tianyi entered the broken illusory array, she only saw a huge footprint and did not find Night Sorrow. She did not find him at all. When Yun Tianyi realized that he had recklessly absorbed the blood essence of a god king and even attracted the attention of a half-step Divine Lord Bone Ape, he was extremely vexed. In the pit that the bone ape had created, he continuously swung his sword to vent his anger. In the end, she could not find any clues. She walked towards the green stone palace to see if Night Sorrow had gone there. It hurts. At this time, Night Sorrow was in a dark sealed space. He slowly opened his eyes. The moment he woke up, Night Sorrow felt a tearing pain all over his body. It was as if every bone in his body had been broken. The half-step Divine Lord Skeletal Ape's stomp had almost crushed him. Where is this? Why am I here? Night Sorrow's body was in pain. His body was severely injured, but his spirit sea was not injured. He used his spirit power to explore his surroundings. After exploring, Night Sorrow discovered that he was in a square sealed space. It was empty except for him and the Samsara halberd. He reached for the medicine bottle on his belt. He wanted to take some pills to heal his injuries, but he found that the medicine bottle had all been crushed. Even the spirit recovery pill could not be found. Without pills, I can only recover slowly. I wonder how Yuntiani is now. Night Sorrow, who struggled to get up, sat down on the ground and began to heal his body. After being stepped on by the skeletal ape, he fainted. When he woke up, he was in this place. He did not know the cause and effect. He prepared to completely heal his body and used the Samsara halberd to attack the walls of the sealed space. This was the only way he could think of to escape. After spending 2 years, Night Sorrow's body had completely healed. This time, his body was completely broken and rebuilt. After recovering, it was much stronger. Samsara strike. Forbidden spear. Raging flames demon subduing. After his body had completely healed, Night Sorrow continuously attacked the walls of the sealed space. He used the Samsara halberd to bombard it from top to bottom, left to right, but to no avail. Am I going to be trapped here forever? No, absolutely not. There were still many things waiting for him to do. How could Night Sorrow be willing to be trapped here? He activated the Vital Essence Smoke Signal, the star's Tyrant Body, and the Power of Merit to bombard the barrier again. However, the result was that he still couldn't shake the barrier of the sealed space. What's going on? Could this be a cage in the cave? Is it specially used to imprison cultivators? As a feather god who could go anywhere, Night Sorrow felt very depressed being locked up in such a confined space. Since he did not gain anything from using brute force, he used his left eye to absorb the divine essence energy. He activated the sea serpent's eye and carefully observed this sealed space. There are formation patterns. After activating the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow immediately saw a complete array formation diagram on the barrier of the sealed space. Compared to what he had seen from the gravel in the passageway and the stones in the hall, the formation patterns were much clearer. Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array? It can use the Divine Essence energy to form an array with a thought and lock the opponent in the array. It is divided into the Feather God level, the High God level, and the Divine Lord level. Seeing the description of the array formation, Night Sorrow immediately became excited. When he was fighting now, his methods were relatively simple. If he could master this array formation, it would definitely become a trump card. This array formation was obviously more useful than ordinary ultimate arts. When used, it could imprison the opponent or even directly seal them. I have to learn this. This array formation was very useful, and Night Sorrow felt that if he learned it, he might have a chance to break out of the sealed space. He immediately used the sea serpent's eye to carefully observe the composition of the array formation. Night Sorrow's comprehension was originally very high, and he had drunk a lot of enlightenment wine in the Endless Bone region. When learning the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, his progress was rather fast. In less than a year, he could use the Divine Essence energy to set up the Feather God level Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. Open! After learning the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, Night Sorrow immediately saw the door to the sealed space and used the Divine Essence energy to directly disperse it. The sealed space shattered, and he appeared in a core world full of lava. Very good. Among the cultivators who entered the cave abode, your comprehension is indeed the highest. The Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array has a successor, so I can go in peace. What appeared in front of Night Sorrow was a phantom of Divine Lord Jinyun. He said a sentence and dissipated between heaven and earth. Divine Lord. When Night Sorrow saw Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom, he immediately called out, but it was already too late. At the same time the phantom disappeared, a sentence sounded in his ear. If you want to enter the Green Stone Palace, you have to kill the half-step Divine Lord Realm Bone Ape and obtain the key to open the palace. If you want to obtain the opportunity, hurry and think of a way. Without waiting for Night Sorrow to react, he had already returned to the deep pit created by the Bone Ape. In a flash, more than 3 years have passed. I wonder if Yuntiani is still alive. After being trampled, he had directly appeared in the Divine Essence Dragon locking array. Now that he had returned, Night Sorrow did not know about Yuntiani's situation. Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom had said that to enter the Green Stone Palace, one had to first kill the half-step Divine Lord Realm Bone Ape. This meant that in order to obtain the letter, Night Sorrow had to destroy that colossus. With his strength, it was impossible for him to do so. He could only think of a way to find helpers. Moreover, it was basically impossible for others to kill the Bone Ape. They could not enter the Green Stone Palace, so they should be searching for opportunities nearby. After walking out of the illusion array, Night Sorrow came to the place where Yuntiani had absorbed the Divine King's blood essence. He used the sea serpent's eye to observe for a while and returned to the illusion array to take a closer look. He discovered many sword marks and confirmed that Yuntiani was not dead at that time. Therefore, he began searching the plains. However, after searching for more than half a month, Night Sorrow did not encounter Yuntiani, Huang Lai, or the others. Fortunately, he headed in the direction of the Green Stone Palace. There are sounds of fighting. I finally see people. After traveling for 5 days in the direction of the Bluestone Palace, Night Sorrow killed quite a few skeletal puppets. Finally, at noon, they heard the sounds of cultivators fighting in an ancient forest that stretched up to the sky. Night Sorrow flew out of the ancient forest and immediately rushed in the direction of the sounds of fighting. Soon, he saw the two sides fighting beside a lake that occupied an area of about 100 miles. In the center of the lake, there were 2 women fighting. One of them was wearing a red palace dress and holding a blood-red silk. At this moment, she had the upper hand and was constantly attacking. The one she was suppressing was a beautiful woman who was completely naked. The woman was tall and curvy, and her body was covered with sparkling and translucent water droplets. It was obvious that she had suffered a sneak attack while bathing in the lake, causing her to be unarmed and naked. Being suppressed, her face was flushed red. Clearly, she was embarrassed and angry. She wanted to return to the shore to retrieve her clothes and divine artifact, but she was suppressed to the point that she had no chance at all. See no evil. See no evil. Seeing this scene, Night Sorrow immediately retreated in embarrassment and prepared to change his path. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.